think something right there,
Okay.
because there's nowhere else.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. We were previously in closed session. We are now in open session again. And as is our custom, we will rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence and honor by our troops. Children, the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the United States, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You're seated. We begin this evening with the approval of the minutes. I'd like to know if all the council members have read the minutes from the June 5th, 2025 closed session and the June 26th, 2025 public session. Did you have a chance to review them? I have a motion to adopt them, please. So moved. Second. All in favor? Ken here.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Next, on to the administrative reports. Again, has the council had a chance to look at the administrative reports? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to just point out a couple of things about the administrative reports. So this month, the Lambertville New Hope Ambulance and Rescue Squad have began to submit monthly reports to the council. And with them yesterday, we want to make sure that we're always partnering well with them. And I think that this is some good information to have. So they are now submitting monthly reports to the city and they're giving us some basic information. For example, Lambertville City had 51 calls in June and 283 from January till June. So the city represents about in this year so far about a third of their calls. So we are the number one municipality that they serve in terms of calls. So if anybody has any questions about that, please feel free to see me, and we can certainly send it out to the public if you're interested. Just a couple of other things from administrative reports from the DPW. The boom mower is working well, which is great. We bought it last year for $1,500 at an auction, so I'm happy about that. The Temple Center relot was all repainted and striped recently. Clerk continues to register landlords with $2,300 in landlord registration fees last month for late landlords. Thank you, ladies, for that work and for all the work that you do. Parking revenue last month was just over $50,000. And with the exception of January and February, every month this year has exceeded the past year in parking revenue. So our parking revenues are strong. And that's some always welcome news. Unless there are any questions, I would entertain a motion to accept the administrative reports.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
So we're going to do things just a little bit differently. We have a couple of things to consider. What I'd like to do is to work through the agenda, the principal items in the agenda first, and then move on to questions about the judge's order afterwards. So what I'm proposing tonight is that in the first public participation constituent concerns, we discuss just those items that are on the agenda, so the resolutions and the ordinances. We have a couple of ordinances tonight which are second reading and public hearing, and those ordinances will have their own public hearings. Once we've moved through the agenda and we have time to talk about the court order, we will have a separate public comment period for that. And we will have extended time for that so that everybody can spend time making comments or asking questions for that. But I think it'll work best if we get through the bulk of the regular business first. And I think it should be a fairly quick process. So bearing that in mind, if you do have a question or a comment about those items early on in the agenda, please step up to To the microphone, you have 3 minutes of uninterrupted time. We ask that you state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Mike Redmond, 23 Perry Street. At the last council meeting, when the mayor was talking about the resolution for Clausen Farm, he mentioned that he wanted to go into direct talks to sell the homestead market. And I found that comment very surprising. It would be my view that anything that's sold should be sold to the highest qualified bidder. I actually believe that the council has a fiduciary duty to sell anything that we own to the highest qualified bidder. One times are tough, and that's all I wanted to say.
There will be public comment during that ordinance reading as well.
Okay. Any response to that, or?
I prefer to talk about it when we talk about the ordinance. If we don't hear. Yes.
Hi, Karen Atwood, 57 Belvedere Avenue. I just want to say thank you to Jeff Tittle for getting some wells tested for free out there through Garden State. I want to say thank you to Karen Kaminsky for coming out here and reaching to us to help us with this little fund for a few people that needed help there. I think my main question to you is, what do you envision for the future for Lambertville, and why did you run for mayor? What was your vision?
So one thing about, I'll answer this question, but one thing about public participation, we don't, it's not directed to any one person on the dais. That's part of the ordinance, and that's just because we work as a team. I'm happy to answer that question. I ran for mayor because I thought that I could do a decent job, I could do a good job, and I committed to working full-time as the mayor. And I show up every day at 8 o'clock in City Hall and work until 4 or 5, and I often work on weekends. And so there's a lot to be done over the course of a day and over the course of a period of time, and setting priorities, overseeing capital projects, constituent concerns. I hold office hours. All of these things are really important because I believe that for me, and I've said this many times, my life has worked out very well. My husband and I have enjoyed a measure of success. We have 3 children that have grown up here, and this was for me a way to express my gratitude for the community in which I live.
And as far as the community, it seems like you don't listen to what we have to say. It's kind of like your way and that's it.
I'm not.
Maybe I'm wrong, but
I don't want to get into a back and forth here. I would welcome a conversation with you. I'd be happy to set up a meeting and have a conversation.
I just wanted it on record because a lot of stuff is being done and it's not on record. So I just wanted your opinion of what your thoughts were for the future for Lambertville.
Well, I have many thoughts for the future of Lambertville, and I'm not prepared to discuss them all right now because they're not what's on my mind at the moment. But I'm more than happy to have a conversation with you about Lambertville and my thoughts. And every year during the winter, we do a state of the city speech in which I lay out kind of what I think are the priorities for the coming year and the coming years. And a lot of that is centered around community benefits, whether they're capital projects, whether they're budgetary concerns or questions, potentially new ordinances that I think would be beneficial to the community, things of that nature.
Okay.
Jeff Tittle, 33 Wilson Street, and I want to start off and say I object to this change in how we do business here and a change in the agenda. That this is again more manipulation that is happening in our town to silence, confuse, or keep the public voiceless from being heard. This is one of the only towns that I've ever dealt with that limits speech to 3 minutes. Every town I deal with is 5, and they let me go until you repeat yourself. We still do that. We're stifling dissent in this town. We're stifling public opinion, and we're stifling the right of the people to redress their government and with their grievances. And government that works everything in closed doors and does everything with redevelopment and goes into close for everything without knowing what's going on behind closed door is never doing the government's business. And so I'm really objecting to what's going on here. And then we leave with one thought about the future. This week, we saw horrific floods in New Jersey. Last week, we saw hundreds of people die because of flooding. The reason that flooding happens is because you cut down mountains, you cut down forests, you pave over open space, and you can't control the water. And Quarry Street's gonna turn into Route 22, which is going up on top of that hill. And we don't have an alarm system. We used to. And people don't know. My phone has a Princeton Exchange, so I don't get the alerts from over here. So what I'm saying to you is not only don't you listen to the people, you're setting us up for a tragedy.
Okay, Suzanne Davis, Akron Avenue, Lambertville, and actually, Mayor Norris, this is addressed to you, even though I know it's not really.
You're out of order.
It's just-
No, you can't call you out of order. You may not address any single person on the dais.
So anyway, it seems that when Mayor Norwood became mayor, I have to believe that he had the best interests of the town at heart. And I know that he used to do these walkabouts that we would hear about, and they were terrific. I did this, I saw that, absolutely wonderful. And even one time we needed a stop sign somewhere, and I emailed his office. The next day there was a stop sign. They were very responsive. However, somehow it seems that things started to get a little darker, and I'm thinking like maybe a chapter in Watership Down where the rapper sees all these machines coming to destroy his warren. And I'm just wondering, what the plan is for Lambertville, like how are these new developments going to enhance and enrich our little town that we love so much? So those are my thoughts on that, not directed to you, Mayor Hurley.
Judy Gleason, 86 North Union Street. So I'm sorry at the decision to change the way we're doing the public comment. I don't think it was the kind of thing that we should all have had to wait till now to hear. There are people who are here with other obligations who may or may not be able to stay till the end. I don't know. But that's sort of not a good way to communicate changes in the public agenda, I would suggest. Secondly, I understand what we're not allowed to talk about now, but I will say I did have occasion to look up in our code what the duties of the mayor are. Not a particular person, it's the role of mayor. There's particular duties and certain powers. And I went through it with some care and was unable to find anything in there that seemed to be responsive to some of the actions that appear to have been taken in various areas. And I'm concerned about that, and I'm concerned because I have seen our council take positions contrary to our mayor, and yet I've seen an outcome be a position that was not supported by a majority of the council. So I understand we're only going to talk about specifics later in the meeting, but these are big. We're living in a world now where people who are doing things that do not fall within their duties and powers at high levels of government has caused everybody concern. And I did not expect to have that concern in this little town. But recently it has become more and more the case that that is a realistic concern in this little town. And whether we're talking about something that we're going to talk about later in this meeting, or whether we're looking toward the future and issues that will again fall within closed sessions and stuff going on, this is not a good way to feel as though the town is working together with its council and its officials. So I really ask that that be something that is borne in mind going forward. And yes, you'll probably hear from me again later. Thank you.
Sean Ellis, 21 Belvedere. Judy kind of stole my thunder here because I did want to say that it does not seem that like the council is working as a team. Like you just said, Mayor Noak, it seems that in fact, there is a routing around democracy here. The council has been very clear about their opinions and about what they would like to see happen, and that has been in conflict with what the mayor would like to see happen. And I'm very concerned that there was this undemocratic resolution to to this development. That seemed to be, and I'll talk about this more later, because I know we're not allowed to. We're prohibited from talking about it now, but it seems like number one, the council doesn't actually function as the team you are thinking it is, Mayor. And number two,
I'm gonna ask you
You
not to
said-
direct any comments to any one individual on the dais, please.
it seems like the council is not working as a team. They're being thwarted by one person. And I think that the priorities, again, the things that that the mayor says he's doing, he is prioritizing things. He's just not prioritizing the things that the community cares about and that the council cares about. And that I see as a huge disservice to our democracy here. It's very concerning.
Good evening, John Henchek, 99 Quarry Street, Claytonville. I'm here to speak about what's taking place at Cavello Park. Relative to about 77, 78, fellows here decided that they'd like to upgrade Cavello Park from a place where the kids were running down the trucks and the geese and their four-wheel drives drawn and make it into a top park. Memory of the young man who lost his life, Jimmy Cavello. I think that was his name. But I do know. So after a number of meetings, we met with Jim Hamilton, who happens to be the gentleman whose painting hangs in the back here. And we went down to the DNR Canal Commission when it was back in late 70s at the West State and Calhoun Street, and we gave a presentation of what Cavello Park should look like. At which time we went through all of the mechanics that were required, and considering who I was running in a 4-horse race with, the only other person being Barbara, I did all the paperwork. 13 different letters, 13 different approvals, including the 4th Naval District. What they had to do with it, I have no idea, but I do know this. When I saw $150,000 de minimis for benzopyrene, you gotta be kidding. And I'm using light language here. That's grilled meat. The worst being chicken fat. Beef, not so bad. So every property here in Lambertville, the world, has got benzopyrenes on it and $150,000 to clean it up. I hope you got paperwork, folks, from the Green Acres. The Green Acres knows nothing about it at all. And I got paperwork that says they don't. So if this $150,000 gets spent to clean up chicken fat and beef, well, I think we'll have to take it to a next level. I find myself in a situation that every day of my life now, I look across the street at the hill, and it is slowly losing all of the trees. And at 2:45 in the morning, my house shakes when they set off illegal blasting, which may be a contributor why some of the buried tanks or whatever the hell is in them has gotten into our aquifers. So we have a very serious problem. Benzopyrene better go away. We do not want to get involved with the folks in Newark. You know who they worked for before, and they probably still do now. When you start talking about what is occurring the trees that Mr. Tiller mentioned, stop water, have been removed. And that's all along the fascia of the tree line on what they call the north side of the quarry. The important thing, however, is that we cannot tolerate now a heavy rainfall. It's gonna come down, and if we're the ones that are involved in getting injured, I assure you that it's been at least depraved indifference that caused this problem. And I will take it to the highest level that I can, and you're forcing us to go into the enemy camp. That's how I view the way the Justice Department is being run right now. There'll be more. Thank you very much.
The other thing I have to say about Green Acres is that we have in fact been in regular contact with them about the park.
Who?
The attorney and the LSRPs. So
Who?
Give
me a name. Attorney, give me a name.
Yeah, his name is Connor.
Connor Milligan.
Connor
Who?
Milligan.
Connor Milligan.
I'd be more than happy to send you a long line of emails that show that we've had regular communication with them.
Okay, I have a person who's the compliance officer, has no clue what you're talking about.
Well, we've been, in fact, I just asked.
That could be the issue here, that there's nothing wrong with Cavallo Park. We don't have to spend $150,000 to clean up chicken fat.
We have a well-established record of what's happening at Cavallo.
So what? I wouldn't be here otherwise. Okay. You gotta be able to talk to justice blindly. Thank you, everybody, for your attention.
Is there anyone online who wishes to speak? How many people do we have online?
19. No hands.
And I have a motion to close the public commentary, please. So moved.
Second,
All in favor?
I.
Aye. Thank you. Resolutions, we have a consent agenda this evening. These are routine resolutions and shall be enacted by one motion. If anybody on the council seeks to see a separate discussion of an item, please let me know. I just wanted to point out, I think on let's see. So unless there are any comments or questions from the council, hearing none, I would ask for a motion to adopt the resolutions listed on the consent agendas number 119/2025 through 127/2025. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Our next resolution is resolution 128/2025. It's a resolution to update the bid threshold to $53,000 as per DCA regulations. This resolution authorizes the increase, and it's also necessary for auditing purposes. Any questions? All right, I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 128/2025. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Resolution number 129/2025. This is a resolution to certify the 2024 audit. The audit has been posted on the city website, and I was pleased to report that there were no recommendations this year. We had a perfectly clean audit, which is great. A very complex level of finance. And the council's members have all signed off on this, and so I would entertain a motion to accept the audit. It's resolution number 129/2025. So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. 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 Thank you. Motion carries. Approval of the bills list. Would somebody make a motion to approve the bills list, please? So moved. Second. All those in favor of paying the bills, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion carries again. First reading of ordinances, ordinance number 18/2025. This is an ordinance to amend the Lambertville City Code 2014, Chapter 7, to add a handicap parking space in front of 79 Clinton Street. Any questions from the council? No? Okay, we have a motion, please, to introduce this ordinance.
So moved.
Second, please. Second. All in favor of introducing on first reading ordinance number 18-2025 with a public hearing scheduled for August 21st, 2025, please say aye. Aye. We are also introducing amendments to ordinance, these amendments in here, yeah, using amendments to ordinance number 19-2025. This would amend the Lambertville City Code 2014, adding chapter 18, special regulations for major motion pictures. So this is an ordinance that will amend the city's ordinance and bring it into line with the state of New Jersey. Major changes include adding a table of contents, changing the person of authority to the municipal clerk, who is the licensing agent for the city, and some other minor edits and minor fee schedule changes. So we adopted this ordinance before the state had completed their ordinance, their sort of standard boilerplate ordinance to be a community in which the film ready designation was made. As you know, we've already had one major film work here in Lambertville, and they did work according to the ordinance at the time, and it went very well. So this is just bringing us into line with the rest of the municipalities in the state who are film ready municipalities. Are there any questions about this? Okay, I'll make a motion to introduce on first reading ordinance number 19-2025 with the public hearing scheduled for August 21st, 2025. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Moving on to the second reading. Ordinances. We have ordinance number 15-2025. This is an ordinance to amend Lambertville City Code 2014, Chapter 7, handicapped parking to include a space in front of 67 York Street. And as is required, when we do a second reading, we have a public hearing on this. So if there's any member of the public who wishes to speak just to this specific ordinance, please step to the podium. Is there anybody online who wishes to speak to this handicap park space? Okay, may I have a motion to close the public comment, please?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor of closing the public comment, please say aye.
Aye.
All right. Aye. Any further comment from the council on this ordinance? All right, then I would ask for motion to adopt ordinance number 15-2025 on second reading, granting final approval.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Now we have ordinance number 16. Ordinance number 16-2025. This is an ordinance of the city of Lambertville, County of Hunterdon, state of New Jersey, adopting the Holcomb Farm redevelopment plan pursuant to local redevelopment housing law. So this ordinance was introduced and subject to a public hearing at the planning board for consistency with the master plan. They did recommend approval, did find it consistent with the master plan. And this ordinance is to amend the Holcomb Farm redevelopment plan, and this would permit the sale of the farm market to Fisherman's Mark, and also authorizes the city to work with Raritan Valley Habitat for Humanity to build 6 for sale affordable housing units. I will open a public hearing for this ordinance, so if you would like to speak, please state your name and address. Offer your comments.
Paul Stevens, 39 Quarry. This comment would have made a lot more sense if we've been allowed to comment on something that's being held to the end, but I'm gonna go ahead and make it anyway. I feel strongly that any related activities related to the sale of any portion of the Clausen exclusion zone property, Fisherman's Mark, be put on hold until we figure out what we're going to do about the high school site. Okay, how we're going to move that. Yes, selling the property to a farmer's market will bring in a one-time tranche of money to the city, but it's not going to bring in any future ongoing revenue. And there's a good chance we're going to need it. Okay, hopefully we will need it because hopefully we'll be fighting this. Then more importantly, it's the only property that the city has that it owns right now where we control the future of what goes on there. And as we heard from Northwest Gap on activities of the Affordable Housing Committee, the biggest issue with nonprofits being able to develop affordable housing, which they don't really rely on developers, is having property to do it on. Okay, and that's what we're doing with Habitat for Humanity, but we might need to do it with the rest of the property. And here's a for example, okay? Fisherman's Park is sitting on, has, according to their 2023 Form 9090, they have $1.3 million of cash in non-interest bearing accounts. That's their surplus. And they have capital assets with a cost basis of $1.4 million. It would seem to me that Fisherman's Park could help out with our affordable housing. I bet you they're gonna wanna rebuild that, building that's on there. This plan they have for it, although I don't know what their plan is for it, you'll discuss it in private. But why don't we convince them that maybe they ought to think more creatively, put some affordable housing apartment units on the side. Yeah. That would help us out in the future. And. Oh, and then one other thing here. It's interesting that the development plan that you put, that you're talking about right now actually shows that for the last 4+ years that Fisherman's Mark's been in violation of the zoning of that property. Yeah. So anyway, food pantry is not one of the permissible uses in LR or whatever that zoning is up there, RM. Thanks for your time. Like I say, I really think we're getting ahead of ourselves again. Every time we do this, we end up tripping over ourselves down the road, wishing we might have done something differently if we've been smart, thought out about it in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter Hollis, 123 North Franklin Street. I'm very curious and concerned about the process that brings us to this point on the resolution for the designation of designating the property in need of redevelopment. I looked at the 2022 minutes and the rationale given for designating the property in need of redevelopment was questionable at best, I think bogus, and frankly just completely wrong. It was questioned by one of the planning board members. That questioning was dismissed. The criteria were just not accurate. It's a dilapidated facility and all that. The mayor stated that he was actually the reason for it was to enable the city to use the property for stormwater. It's in the minutes. And so that's curious. But what's disturbing is that in the plan that you're about to come through, there is no mention of an extremely consequential project going on in that property right now. Everything else is mentioned except the project ongoing now for stormwater management on the property, which in my opinion, well, and maybe I'm the only one that likes to look at stars unimpeded by lights in my eyes, or have the only view in town, over looking over the city. Those are the only place that you can do it. Those are going to be obliterated when this project comes to fruition, as will the sledding hill. The project is completely incompatible with sledding, so there will no longer be sledding on that hill. I'm astounded that this is something that's moving forward without question by anybody, and I'm very disturbed about that, especially in light of what we're seeing has happened at the Hovnanian with that issue, where we just go through these things without thinking. So I'm really hope you don't just approve this thing without thinking about things. Thank you.
Just a couple of thoughts on the park. I believe you're referring to the $322,000 grant that the city's working through for the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, which has been very well vetted public through the Parks and Rec. I'm responding now, so if you could, so that is still ongoing. That is a major project, and it will be dealing with stormwater by adding green infrastructure. Sledding Hill, you are incorrect. The Sledding Hill will not be compromised. The field will be mowed. We have made that commitment a number of times in meetings. So I can clarify that for you right here in this meeting on the record. That project is continuing and will have a beneficial impact to houses across the street, for example, and stormwater in general. And it also serves a very important educational function. There will be signage that talks about the importance of green infrastructure and ways in which we need to be addressing stormwater management and resilience through a multitude of different programs and functions. So that's.
So the project will not do that is what it is stating it is going to do on
You
terms of
can
the.
call me and we can set up a meeting.
Well, you're about to
We're
prove
not
this
going
thing,
to
it
back
seems
and
to me,
forth.
that's just.
Thank you.
I'll be there.
Good evening, Mike Redmond, 23 Perry Street. Kind of just want to revisit, what I said in the earlier comment section. There's a lot of contention going on in society right now, right? And I think lots of things cause it, but one of the things is the abuse of language, right? We abuse language in our society, suggesting that the Clausen Farm is an area in need of redevelopment is a lie. It's an abuse of language. We were told that we had to buy it to protect the viewscape, right? You don't protect the viewscape of an area in need of redevelopment. So abuse of language is a problem in our society. And then abuse of the spirit of law, right? Our law has a spirit to it, right? The government buys something, it buys it from the lowest qualified bidder. The government sells something, it sells it to the highest qualified bidder. I know Fisherman Mark's a charity. I'm sure they've helped lots of people. I'm sure they have a beautiful record. It doesn't matter. The government needs to set examples in how it does things. And if Homestead Market is going to be sold, it should be sold to the highest qualified bidder. And I actually think the council members have a fiduciary duty to the taxpayer to ensure that that happens. Thank you. I appreciate any thoughts and comments.
Thank you. The council's talked about this a number of times in public meetings, in terms of our fiduciary responsibility to pay down the debt. While the terms of the agreement, I don't remember, Bill, if we've talked about this in public, but the property was appraised. It's been appraised in 3 or 4 different ways, different segments, so that we could understand what the value of a certain part of it was and the value of other parts of it was. And Fisherman's Mark has agreed to pay above the appraised value of the property. So that's all I'm going to say on that subject at the moment.
So, Mayor, these comments have given me pause and to reflect on and recall some of those conversations that we had. I remember specifically advocating for putting the sale out to bid to get the highest qualified bidder. And it just kind of moved along in a direction. So I want to go on record saying that I support that stance for the reasons that Mr. Redmond mentioned. It's a fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers to get as much money as we can for our coffers. It doesn't matter if we sell the property to a benevolent organization at a discounted price versus qualified bidder at a slightly higher price. We would still have the opportunity to pay down the debt with that money. So I just want to, go on record as saying that I do support the reservations that are being put forward tonight.
Okay, well, we will be hopefully moving this to a vote, so you can express it as you will in the vote.
Jeff Tittle, 33 Wilson Street. So I'll just cut off in answering Mike's question. The reason you make it an area of redevelopment is so you get around the bidding laws, and you get around zoning, and you get around everything else. And that's been one of the biggest scandals in New Jersey. In fact, I won a court case up in Franklin Township in Warren County, where they made a farm an area of redevelopment. The court ruled that it couldn't be, because it's open space, and open space is a higher use than development. So just so you understand that, this was done so that you could do a private sale versus doing a public bid. And I'm not necessarily against the project. I just want to make sure people understand that redevelopment is how you hide stuff from the people. That's the way you get around. The other point I'm gonna make, and I'm gonna get one more, was that we don't know what the cost of the infrastructure improvements are gonna be as part of the sale, the cost of that road, that's gonna cost $200,000, the cost of stormwater improvements and everything else. So this is not gonna be a moneymaker to pay down the debt. This is gonna be a money loser. And my final point is that that site was supposed to get 5 units of affordable housing in round 3. The former mayor took it off. They moved it to the police station, which then they wanted to put a police station in the flood zone, or rent property here, or put it on Boston Farm. We had nowhere to go. But those 5 units that stood out there is one of the major reasons we lost the lawsuit to Hovnanian, because we could not get certified, because we had no place for those 5 units. And had we put it back on Boston Farm after we bought the property, we would have a different outcome. So this is a tragedy, a complex of mistake. You can call it whatever you want. In the Army, they had another word that starts with cluster, but I'll leave it at that.
Dave Bird, 255 Brunswick Avenue. On the issue of the sale of the market, all right, I have said here many times, all right, this should go out to a public, public auction or public bid, all right, and we get our assessments and we get offers, all right, but you go out to the public, in a public, bidding, not a bidding, but in a sale, all right, we should probably do or could do amazingly well. And if not, it's wrong. All right, the other thing is, and I didn't think of it until, what happened here a Monday or so ago. All right, with the court case, we don't know what's gonna happen, all right, in this city. All right, but we know it's not gonna be good. All right, and to tie up any of our property that now belongs to us, the taxpayer, I think it would be a dereliction of duty, all right, to prepare for whatever is coming.
Good evening, John Hitchcock. This past planning board meeting, I presented a presentation as a professional. I'm a historic preservation specialist, among other things. And it was a consistency review, which was the perfect place to do it, because that's where you do these type of things. And as I read through my qualifications, which are educational. One of the things I didn't mention is that, in fact, on behalf of President Reagan, Barbara and I did go to the Caribbean islands to set up historic processes, and did receive a wonderful call from him. He said, I'm going to thank both you and Mr. Senchak, but more importantly, I want to thank you for what you do for America, and that's what I'm going to do right now. The Clausen property is, I had a nice presentation here, but I go right to the meat of the matter here. The Clausen property is the Holcomb Farm. The Holcomb Farm is on the state and national register of historic places. As soon as it's purchased by a municipality, it comes under the control of the Historic Place Council. And then it is reviewed. It either meets the Secretary of the Interior standards guidelines for treatment of historic property. That's anything you want to do, including encroachment. Examples of encroachment include demolition taking property from a historic resource, or alternation of listed property. This is so illegal. Encroachments are reviewed in a meeting with the Historic Site Council. It's a gubernatorial board of 11 citizens created to advise the council, and they review the request of the municipality, because once it starts it is. Now, there was a gentleman here that said it sounds wrong. The New Jersey Constitution of 1947 is very specific, particularly Judge Zazi, which we all talk about all the time, I'm sure, who said a blighted property is a property that is exactly that. Ugly, neglect, rundown, conditions of urban decay. Exactly. Open farm. Well, it's trying to be developed under 40A12. That is not in any way something that occurs. I have the whole quote from Chief Justice Zazi, who made it very clear that it's not what was presented here. It is a blighted property whatsoever, particularly in the Gunnatine versus Paulsboro, which I'm sure again you're very familiar with. So this property here, in order to be developed, has to go before the Historic Sites Council. It's got to be an open public meeting, and that's the law of the land. Council failed to compliance when they did this. Do we have problems in New Jersey with affordable housing? 15 to maybe 20% of the homes in New Jersey are valued at 1 million or more. So it's economics driven and not anything else at all. Now, so what we're going to have to do here, folks, is we're going to have to follow the letter of the law. And I gave a presentation, and I try to be as easy about it as I could. But the second a municipality purchases a property on the State National Register of Historic Places, anything you want to do in terms of encroachment has to go before the Historic Sites Council. And that has to be an open public meeting, obviously. I also brought up to the attention of the planning board that a gentleman with 3.5 acres between 518 and Quarry Street came to then Mayor, I forgot her name. She, they came because they wanted to be considered for, what were you in the deep right now with? The, I forgot. They wanted to be able to go into an amicable situation to see if somebody would buy their property, they could work out a deal for affordable housing on their property. They also came earlier on with the trailers, and were turned back. The trailers are legally have to be considered for affordable housing. What they wanted to do was to have a builder's solution looked at for their property, so that the 3.5 acres could be used for that purpose, although his wife is favoring the tiny house type of thing, and that would be 1 and 2 family, 1 and 2 bedroom type of properties. We have had here a place that could be developed, and it didn't flood during Ida, and it's on the stream. And you had somebody at that point in time that was disrespected. He and his daughter went up and was told to go see the developer when you were doing the police station. You can't be shooting your toes off and doing this. So if we move ahead with what my gentleman's friend over here is going to propose, I simply send a certified letter to the governor, and we call it out. Let the chips fall where they may. I'm very concerned about living in what I call an alcoholic family, where I'm afraid to tell the truth, so I don't bring us out in the open of some of the stuff that's going on around. But sooner or later, and hopefully later, we have people that are gonna be looking for something like Fisherman's Mark as a price target, if I might say so. And you can't restrict people from speaking here, called the Constitution. And that amps up when you get to section 9, 241, 242. Your attorney here will tell you that. It gets pretty nasty. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you, Cole.
Paul, we're not,
You made a statement earlier, Paul Stevens, 3940. You made a statement earlier about there being two appraisals, well, you said there've been appraisals on that. The only thing that I know of in public meeting were the appraisals that were done for Green Acres, and they did not include an appraisal of the exclusion zone. If there is an appraisal of the exclusion zone, could you please send it to me? Thank you.
Judy Gleason, 86 North Union Street. Mostly, I just want to thank the people who have knowledge and experience and information they were able to share with you all tonight in this public hearing, which I do not have, but I heard what they said, and I'm asking, as they have asked, everybody on the dais, please take this seriously and don't feel like you have to do whatever it is you're being asked to do tonight. There's obviously more going on here. Maybe at the end of the day, you find out that there's no need to do anything any differently than you thought, than was thought would be out there. But there's been really important information shared with the whole room, not just with the council, but with the whole room. That means everybody here knows the stuff that is at issue. That's a question. And members of council have in the past stood up for this sort of thing and said, okay, we're gonna hold on, or we're gonna take it on, or we're gonna do whatever we're gonna do. So I know, having watched this council since its election in various years, this is a group that is willing to look and take careful attention. So just please, I didn't give you any good information, but I heard good information, and I'm asking you to please take the time to not feel like you can check off something by voting on it tonight, when there's clearly more to it now than is 100% clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you.
Sean Woods, one over here. So I think Paul had a good point that if there are appraisals that I'm assuming are paid with taxpayer money on this property, on the different parts of it, that be made public. Is that possible?
Bill, can you answer these questions? So, you know, when you have had appraisals, I'm not gonna remember exactly, it's been a while since you and I have talked about them, but there were at least, I think, 2 or 3 different appraisals while the city council was considering different elements, possibilities, on the site, right? So you've now worked on the site for 4 years. There have been a lot of ideas that have been kind of thrown out at various times about, you know, what do we do with the log cabin? What do we do? We never had a holistic kind of, you know, plan or kind of look at the site or anything. So there were I think 3 total appraisals, if I'm remembering correctly. And I'm gonna have to defer to you, Bill, on Sean's question.
That's correct. There was 3 different appraisals. There's one specific to the farmer's market property. We don't have a contract with Fisherman's Mark on that property yet. You know, that's dependent on how the redevelopment plan is handled. There was preliminary negotiations that we had in closed session because there were contract negotiations. Fisherman's Mark obtained their appraisal, the city obtained its own, just to make sure we can check those numbers. The concern I would have is that if this ordinance is adopted, the city does go the route of soliciting bids or at an auction. If that information is public, then it kind of compromises the bidding process, because potential bidders would know what the price is going to be on the appraisal, and they could obviously move the mic down. Yes. Any potential bidder could obviously obtain their own appraisal, but. My opinion is that this city's one private city made this appraisal, and by making the numbers public, it wouldn't compromise any public bidding. So that would be my concern about making it public at this time, but obviously, that's the only question I have. Well, obviously, the government probably pushes, we have.
So it was made with taxpayer money, but the public can't actually see that.
That's Bill's recommendation, yes.
Wow, okay.
You wish to speak about the redevelopment plan?
The one on the hill, is
No,
that the one we're doing?
no,
That's-
during the Clausen, we're gonna do that as soon as we get through the.
Oh, right.
Fairly close. Yep. Is there anybody online who wishes to speak to this? No, John, I'm sorry, we're gonna,
Mayor,
I wanna.
people have the right to speak. They shouldn't be shut down and they shouldn't be told they've spoken too much. I'm sorry.
If I might say so, compliance. Does the local government certify what you folks passed? They request the authorization of the Commission of Department of Environmental Protection prior to encroaching upon a resource listed on the New Jersey Register of Historic Places, and you put your John Hancock on. You agreed to it, and now you're turning your back. They all don't work.
Anyone online who'd like to speak to this? Any motion to close the public comment period on this ordinance, please?
So moved.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. Is there further? Thank you. Is there further comment or questions from the council on ordinance number 16-2025?
Becca,
I would say that. I would say that, given the information that we received tonight, which is actually maybe the first time I've heard about it, about additional approvals we need to sell, to potentially sell parts of the Clausen property, then I would be hesitant to take action before we did a little bit more due diligence. Just to say that we did due diligence. I have questions, whether, and I could be wrong, believe me, but I have questions whether the Holcomb Farm is actually singled out in our historic, because not many properties are singled out as, it is. But be that as it may, then I would rather wait until we had an official word whether what we're doing with the properties. And we may have.
We have talked about this in at least one public meeting. Anything that we do on that property is going to have to go before the State Historic Preservation Office and the Historic Sites Council. We have talked about this in public meetings. There's not a single thing that we can do up there. The reason why the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation grant is taking so long is because we needed to do an archaeological survey. And that took a very long time. They found 1,000 objects which are in City Hall. If anybody's interested in seeing them, they may. And then they requested or required that we do a second survey of a separate area of the park. There's not a single thing that we can do up there without talking to the GNR Canal Commission, without going to historic sites and SHPO. Am I correct, Michael?
Yes.
Did I miss anything?
No.
Okay. So this has been talked about in public meetings before. So I don't want I don't want there to be confusion about it. Anything that we do there is a multi-layered process, and I have found that out better than anybody with Green Acres Anything that we do up there is we've owned the property for 4 years. And everything requires a lot of bureaucratic applications, I mean, I could talk about this for half an hour. So I just want to make sure that everybody's clear that this is true. John is correct, and nobody was disputing that at any point, but the Historic Sites Council will need to be seen, SHPO will need to be contacted, applications will need to be sought and approved by the state before we can do the habitat houses, before we can do any potential work on the site that's related to Green Acres. All of it requires state approval.
And that will be an open public meeting.
But those meetings are public as the state makes them. I don't know, Bill, can you comment on the Historic Site Council meeting? I think is
I know
public.
SHPO's open. I've never done anything with the Historic Sites Council, but I know SHPO's open.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we would like these to be open, because that is a very significant historic site. And for us to carve it up in the way that you're talking about would not be appropriate for it. It is an entire state.
Barbara, we close the
Economic.
comment. Okay.
I'm sorry, I'll make it later,
Okay,
but you know fully well what that site is.
we all do. I have the deed from 1705 in my office. I look at it every single day. I'm very keenly aware of the historic significance of that site. So, are there any other questions from the council?
I just want to, second, Councilman Stegman's, comments about, getting some good information here tonight. It does give me pause that we should maybe take further discussion on how to approach this. We did, and maybe we missed some opportunities, and that would be part of the discussion. And the public would be privy to that discussion, and that would be a good thing. But really, what are our options, and what are the things we can accomplish? What's the risk of not moving forward with this? That's number one. What else could we possibly do? And I'd like to maybe carry this forward and see if there's an opportunity to do a little bit of extra digging.
I strongly feel a different point of view from the council president. I think that the expectation, the last couple of years worth of work and conversation in the public about this have taken place, and we have worked in the public forum to discuss this many times. We have talked about the debt. We have talked about the mission of Fisherman's Mark and what an important organization it is to the character and the very support of our residents. I would be opposed to moving this to a different date. I mean, we've already done so much work here, and it feels as though we would be doing a last minute complete change of heart.
Well, given the discussion, I'll be short and sweet. I mean, I think given the situation, we were probably wise to carry it. Because I don't know because we don't want to go back and start all over again. Since we already know how some of the council members feel, and in deference to Chrissy, maybe there needs to be some further discussion, particularly the fail-safe in a redevelopment plan of, well, what if it doesn't sell the way they said? What if we wanted to convert the building to affordable housing, and we needed to? Is there anything else we need to put in the redevelopment plan to give some surety to that? Maybe it does go with Fisherman's Park, but the food for thought here is some of these desires that we have fail-safe, because what if the sale, I'm privy to the sales negotiation, but it hasn't happened yet. So we're adopting a plan. We don't really have a buyer. We're gonna have a plan with a plan that may not be the use. So like carrying it may be, the wisest move to be able to move
we'd be having much of a discussion on this, I thought we were talking more about, the chaos, so. Just wait. Yeah. So. I do agree with Councilwoman Lewinsky about the wise thing about being, is to carry it at this time, but I do want to say, I do support selling the Fisherman's Mark. Obviously, earlier discussions we had, I think that there was an agreement that this property would not be sold unless it was sold over the appraisal value. So obviously, when that vote happens, I want people to understand that, yes, we're gonna honor that. That was not honored when the property was bought. I wasn't on council when the property was bought. I didn't support it, but I am now, and so my job is to do what's best for the city of Lansville. I'll also remind people, for the past couple of years, you've had people come in here saying, why isn't this property sold? So, now we're holding back. Let me tell you, there were a lot of comments. And a lot of people that made those comments are the same ones now saying, let's slow it down. And, look, more information changes everything. But I do support the project, but I certainly don't want to start all over again. I think the wise thing absolutely is to, make sure the city attorney can look at this information and let's carry it and, hopefully be able to proceed very shortly. I do have one question though, when we, part of this resolution is also for our affordable housing with that project. Is that gonna cause problems if we don't move forward with this? And I don't know the answer to that, so.
I would like council to address that question, right? Because our third round compliance is tied into the Habitat for Humanity MOU. And if this is not approved, what that says is that that we're not moving forward, that we do not have the mechanism to move forward with the Habitat for Humanity. It's going to put us in, I think, and I want Kelly to give her an expert legal opinion, put us in legal jeopardy that we do not need.
That's just like great information. That's why we have this sputtering of stuff, so. Kelly, you're on.
We have represented Ayrshire Housing Center that we've been working with Habitat for Humanity on this MOU, and then going to proceed with the development of the 6 dwelling units on the site. We've represented that to the court several times, particularly in the recent litigation. I've been negotiating with Ayrshire Housing Center, again, because we need to make a swap from the police site. And we've negotiated this parcel. You're not, what I'm hearing is not a voting it down. What I'm hearing is a tabling. Certainly those are two different items, but yes, it's been to the court. Yes, it's been put to fair share. So that is correct. Not moving is not moving, and that's it's on an agenda, so it's already. It wasn't at the time, so maybe I guess the point.
Is that in order to, to keep our good faith with the court, since we don't have immunity, that the recommendation that we hadn't talked about before is that we need to move forward with this as part of the package to try to move to get our immunity back.
So we're not selling anything,
We're just adopting the redevelopment plan, which includes the 6 units. That is part of our round 3, which is now doesn't have immunity, but we want to have, we are working towards getting our immunity back. Because that's what we're all talking about. The judge removed our immunity. And it is it's a very precarious place for the city. Which I guess we're gonna be talking about in the next and explaining that, but this is one of the steps that we need to take towards getting our immunity back.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that representation. So
That's an important aspect of the plan that we weren't really talking about, because we were talking about the ability to put if they didn't buy the farm market went down, we would have that space to put affordable housing. So I guess the bottom line is that we need to adopt this with a different bit of a wrinkle to protect us Because we have to keep those 6 units in the plan, we have to keep those 6 units moving. So if there's an issue with the redevelopment plan, according to you, Michael, then we can go back and amend it if we need to want to build affordable housing on the property. But we have to protect our immunity, but we also have to commit to being able to looking at it down the road if we want more affordable housing there or whatever. But tonight, if we can do that, it really is, and look, I'll testify to it differently, to the betterment of the city, that we protect ourselves from this immunity. We're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but I will say that you don't want to have immunity, no immunity, and then have anybody be able to come in and build whatever they want on any parcel here, whether or not it's redevelopment or vacant land in the name of affordable housing. You lose control of your zoning that way. And if this is the price that we're paying for doing that, in my, rethinking of even carrying it, let's move forward tonight. We'll do something later on, and I swear to God, I'll never make anything of redevelopment again.
The thing, 6 units. So, heard the concerns, it doesn't, we're not gonna address those concerns, but, as Councilwoman Booth said, the immunity is critical. Don't have immunity. Well, exactly, and that's the problem.
Yeah, right.
If you please, one person speaking at a time, and we're on dance at the moment.
Okay, we have no immunity, yeah. We're like.
How do we get it?
Yeah.
So Councilwoman, and good Councilman, I really appreciate that dialogue and Kelly, thank you as well. That helped clarify for me. And I think I heard people muttering about, and I really don't mind I said that, but about immunity. Okay, yeah, we don't have immunity, but this would make us have even less immunity. Okay, that's what I'm hearing, right? Like, there's a lot of different things steps we need to do to move forward. This would be one of them, even though we didn't anticipate having this type of discussion. I certainly didn't, but I'm glad we had. We could theoretically, what I'm hearing, we could theoretically comply with the judge's order with regard to the high school site, but not doing this, we're still out of compliance. So I don't think anybody, I think people, we don't like it, but it's the way it is.
When we bought the property, or right before we bought the property, Ben and I weren't in office yet. Ben and I met with Julia, and we talked about using part of the property for fair share housing. And at the time, the constraints were so hard with fair share that building a small property did not qualify for any points or any credit. So we've talked about this about two things. We've talked about the Clausen farm, the farm market many times at many meetings. We even put a notice out if there was interest, if anybody wanted to purchase it. And we got two, and it was pretty well circulated. We got 2 responses. And one was for a restaurant, and I can't remember what the other. Oh, that was the 2.
Yeah.
Fisherman's Mark. I'm not saying how much Fisherman's Mark had paid, and I'm not saying what the appraisal was, but I think I can say it was they're paying more than the appraiser. And that'll all come out when we have a contract. I'm not betraying hopefully anything. I was in favor of Fisherman's Mark being willing to pay to purchase it. I did not want an outside entity that was going to set up a strip mall there, purchase it. I didn't want something that didn't serve the community on land that the city owned to a commercial entity. And one of the ways we decided to do it
was consider Fisherman's Mart purchasing the property. That's why the redevelopment plan is very specific to what happens on that property and also where the log home is as well. And I have to remind people that before Ben and I got on council, that property was going to be the police department. And it wasn't until I had a shouting match with the former mayor that I was not going to approve the purchase if it was going to be developed for municipal purpose. And that's why I voted to purchase it, and that's why we can now use it for the reason why Ben and I ran, to make sure that that property is viable. If what goes on that property after we vote on if the proposal goes forward and we accept the redevelopment plan, we have sewn up the use of that property where the farm market is until some other council in some other future decides to do something else and change the use of it. So this is just another step in moving forward with a use that I support where the farm market is. And I think everybody here, knows the good work that Fisherman's Mart does. And as you know, and we're getting fair share that takes us back into compliance with the third round of fair share agreement. So that's what it does. I will say this, before a shovel goes in the ground on any of these projects, it's going to be reviewed by the necessary entities to approve it. So there's a fail-safe in here. So that's why I'm going to support this. In addition to that, I know how fragile our relationship is with fair share. And if we want to shoot ourselves in the foot just because it's an easy target, I have big feet. And put the city into a worse position, it is not a reason not to approve the redevelopment plan as it is now. So I just want to give people a little bit of background on it. John, I'm glad you brought it up again. When the mayor restated all the loops we have to go through, it triggered my memory. We still have to go through those loops, but passing a redevelopment plan does not affect it because it's just a plan now. So
sounds like we're possibly maybe to make a motion. All right, for a second, motion to adopt ordinance number 16, 2025 on second reading, granting final approval.
Need a second.
I'll second it. Let's do a roll call on this. Conversation.
Councilwoman Kaminsky? Yes, for the reasons I just stated, and I'm never redeveloping again.
Council President Lambert,
Yes.
Councilman Ron,
Yes.
Councilman Stegman,
Yes.
Mayor Melvin.
Yes. Thank you. Ordinance number 17-2025. This is the second reading of the ordinance granting municipal consent for the operation of a cable television system franchise within the city of Lambertville County, New Jersey to Comcast, Southeast Pennsylvania. So we introduced this ordinance last month. I just want to again to thank Stephanie and David Bird and John Weber and Sean Ellis for all their assistance in bringing this ordinance to fruition. It was a long period of time when there was a lot of conversation about the cable company, discernment period, 150-page reports and so forth and so on. And this effectively renews their contract with the city. So I will open this up to public hearing for ordinance number 17, 2025. Is there anybody who wants to speak to this ordinance?
Charles, here. So I think it's just the ordinance that's in the agenda. It doesn't include the narrative that
Correct.
we okay.
Yeah. that's available, I don't know.
It
is
was an
there-
attachment A,
Oh, it is,
that's,
okay.
but I didn't put the whole thing in the agenda.
Okay,
But there's an ordinance and then there's an attachment and you can find that online.
okay, I think that is important, as a member of the body that. Created that, I think it is important to share that with the public, there's a lot of. Recommendations in there, that I don't think made it into the ordinance, we really didn't, it doesn't seem like change. The contract from what it was, or ask Comcast for anything other than what we already are getting, so. Yeah, I think that that should be shared with the public.
Anyone else in the room? Anyone online? Okay, now we have a motion to close the public comment period for ordinance 17/2025, please.
We'll move, second.
All in favor, closing the public comment period, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Unless there are any questions or comments from the council, I would ask for a motion to close, to adopt ordinance 17/2025, the second reading granting final approval. Second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you, the motion carries. Let's have a quick discussion about the chamber event, the Lambertville After Hours event on Friday. I was not there, I know some of the council members were there. I have talked to a couple of people from the chamber, so their analysis of the evening was that it was a lot of fun and lots of residents out. The circus was fun, that the whole event went really well, that it cleared out right at 9 o'clock so people could go to the fireworks. And I don't know if anybody in the council wants to offer any further comment on it, or if there are any recommendations for the next one. It seemed to me that everything seemed to go pretty well.
Yeah, Evan, did you have anything?
I did not, so we had a new puppy that did not have shots,
Oh, congratulations.
but I saw the photos, we'll look at that.
But the two councilwomen and I were there on and off with, and I was there as well. And you know, I had concerns from the start with the chamber and the day and what street they wanted to close. And after a great conversation with the chamber and the mayor, that he came up with a compromise that didn't close North Union Street, which was a great compromise on the chambers, especially for the first one. And I think the first one were things for kids to do. There was music playing, there were neighbors there sitting on stoops, there were people walking in the stores that hadn't walked in, recently in the stores on that block. And it really focused the businesses on Church Street. And I know what it's like to have a business on Church Street, because I had one at number 1 Church for 4 years on the Lost Block, as it were. Before, and those of you who don't know, my role at the chamber, I mean, I was on the chamber board, I worked on the Chef Festival, so I'm really very aware of what streets get traveled on a regular basis and what streets don't. So it was great to focus on Church Street. There were some really fascinating businesses there, and if you want to walk around, take a look and see what's new and what's changed. But I think they did a great job, and I really didn't have the opportunity to reach out to them. But I will thank them for the hard work they put in and how they cooperated with concerns of the city. And I'm ready for the next one.
Any other thoughts? If not making any recommendations, it sounds like for the next one, seems like everything went well.
It's great. It's great.
I thought they did a good job working with, like, the chamber represents a lot of businesses, there are a lot of businesses on that part of the chamber, and I thought they did a good job. Making sure all the businesses were involved, and all the residents knew that, and, feel great, so.
It was great. It was fun. There was a lot of creativity, as everyone promised, and very trendy. We had a good time. It was wonderful.
I heard there were a lot of nomad pizza boxes.
The juggler was really good. He worked with the kids, and the whole presentation was just, there was a lot for the kids to do that wouldn't ordinarily. And it was chalking up the street and all, and 3 people got chalked, and that they got, summons for chalking. There was no summons for chalking, but it was very. I look forward to the next one. So I hope you all can,
August 1st. All right, I'm just gonna hit these two correspondence and one announcement, and then we'll move on into the Academy Hill matter. So we did receive a letter from the New Jersey Water Supply announcing that the DNR Canal will be dredged at some point. I don't have any specific information beyond that. The letter was included in Lambertville Matters. It's on the city website. And as we have more information, we will pass it out to the public. And secondly, we will have our second annual Teddy Bear Picnic up at Holden Park on Saturday, August 2nd from 4 to 6 p.m. This event sponsored by the clerk's office. It's doing a wonderful job planning lots and lots of fun things for the kids. So more information about that coming up, but thank you for that. And there was a blast last year. Apparently, I was out of town. Unfortunately, I missed it. But yeah, glad to see it returning. Thank you for doing that. And now we're going to talk about the court order. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Thanks. And I'm gonna just sort of lay out kind of what our thinking is here. So I'm gonna read a statement, and then I'm gonna hand the mic. Can you pass one of those microphones over to Kelly? So I'm gonna read a statement regarding the court order, and then I'm gonna kick it right over to Kelly, who's going to talk about the process, who's gonna give some basic information about hopefully everything that you need to know. And then she'll kick it back over to me for a public comment period, after which the council members may have some reflections, but we want to make sure that everybody who has something to say gets first crack at the evening of the topic. Just a reminder, I would just encourage people to just have one person speak at a time. Everybody wants to be able to say what they need to say, and I would just encourage you to be mindful of listening to what's happening, whoever the speaker is. So on July 7th, the court entered an order revoking the city's immunity from builders' remedy lawsuits and allowing interested parties to file such a lawsuit to address any or all of the city's affordable housing obligation. This order also directed the city to amend the Lambertville High School redevelopment plan to allow for a 200-unit inclusionary residential development to be constructed at the site. Upon adoption of this redevelopment plan amendment, the city would be eligible to apply for a final judgment of compliance from the court. The city reviewed the July 7th order and will follow the court's direction. The ordinance to approve amendments to the Lambertville High School redevelopment plan consistent with the court's order will be introduced at an upcoming council meeting, likely as soon as the next meeting in August. So, Kelly, please.
Sure, I'm not sure I'll answer, assume I would know all the questions that you have, but to further expand upon what the mayor stated, when the city is stripped of its immunity, it means that it's exposed to builders' remedy lawsuits, which means that we lose control of zoning, not only on the high school site, but also any other site in our plan. The zoning, the high school site was in our third round plan, and as many folks know, the third round expired July 1, 2025. We're into the fourth round now. We're working with the DCA on compliance. However, the directives that have been set out from the DCA indicate that immunity is retained from third round to fourth round. So stripping it in the third round impacts our fourth round immunity as well, which again, leaving us open and exposed to developers coming in and essentially saying that they have a site they'd like to zone and at a higher density than is currently zoned. And that's the gist of a builder's remedy lawsuit. The decision to comply is important in the sense that following the order of the second, the judge, that order takes effect immediately. So in some matters, there may be a stay if a party wants to appeal. In this case, the terms go right into full force of effect. So coming tonight, making a decision. The next steps would be to inform the parties in the litigation that we are in fact seeking to comply with the court order, with the dates and the outline that you propose for adoption. The process will begin again, given that it's, the time passed from May of 24 into today, but, compliance with the court order will put us back in a position to seek immunity and avoid other developers from coming in and, almost attacking our plan as we proposed for the fourth round, and again, resolve the background issues.
So just to clarify, so I mentioned in the statement that the council would seek to introduce amendments to the ordinance at the August 21st council meeting. It would then go to the planning board in early September and then return to the council on September 18th for second reading and public hearing. So there is, it's important, and Kelly and Bill will both echo this. There's a sense of urgency here to make sure that the court knows that we are complying and that we're complying swiftly and meeting basically the order. Bill, do you have anything to add?
No.
No. Kelly, is that all right? So well, can I just have a show of hands how many people wish to speak tonight, just so I have and I'm not going to hold you to that number. I just wanted to get a sense of is everybody going to want to speak, or if it was just a smaller number. So we have 19 people up. So yeah, let's keep that in mind. We're going to be pretty lax about the time tonight, and to the extent that we can answer questions, I'll direct Kelly or Bill to answer any legal questions.
Just a comment, Karen, 57 Belvedere Avenue. I've been up there for over 30+ years. In the past, I have worked with several different mayors from Lambertville and the city council. I have worked with West Amwell mayors and their city councils. The residents up there, when I say we, that included everybody just said, West Amwell, Lambertville residents. We cleaned up that hill. It was a forgotten hill. We, the residents, took over 2,000 tires off that hill. We, the residents, got the people involved and got Habitat up there to clear the titles up there for abandoned homes. We, the people up there, also got that park done that was done in Lambertville and West Amwell. Back then, everybody worked together to all listen to what we had to say, work things out. This time, I don't understand how this happened up there. It took one person from one of them. And I'm not pointing fingers, but it took one person to push this development through and not give us a considered opinion about any of that stuff up there. It's like a slap in the face for the 100-some homes up there that people live up there. We cleaned it up. We took care of that neighbor. We took care of everybody up there. And to have somebody come in and just ignore us is a slap in the face. I didn't appreciate it, and I don't like it. And you do the 100-some homes up there. So I'm glad you got what you wanted. Be careful what you wish for.
Thank you, and you're not blighted. You're not a blighted site.
Not a blanket statement.
Lee, 54 Hancock Street. I haven't come to the last few meetings because this is kind of an emotional topic. I moved there 7 years ago. My husband died. I wanted a nice quiet place. I moved up there. Since I've been up there, I'm in a detached unit. No matter how many times I complained about the unit next to me, overcrowded, this and that, the guy's a slumlord. He rented it to people who burned it down. So since then, they're building 2 houses behind me. I don't know if you guys know what a scraper sounds like when it goes across the ground and removes every piece of life, totally scrapes out a lot. No life at all. The animal, you can hear them scream. Now you might be looking at me like,
Oh, she's such a tree hugger. What do we care about the nature in the area? We just want to sell it to a builder and make money and tax base and blah, blah, blah. It's horrendous. And anybody who approves 200 units on that lot should be tied to a chair and made to listen to the scrapers. For 10 years, the people here are gonna have to listen to the beeping of the trucks backing up. And by the way, I called zoning because the builders behind me are so hideous and ill-informed and such bad neighbors. And I said, by the way, are there any hours or days that builders are not allowed to build in Lambertville? And she said, no. You can do it whenever you want. There are no rules in Lambertville at all. I can show you the email. She has never given me 1 second of any kind of anything when I called about anything. They dug that house too deep. They dug it like 20 feet deep. They had to have a finished basement. Okay. They dug up the edge of my yard, which technically belongs to the city, but the city hasn't touched it ever. They dug it up. They left it a complete mess, piles of rocks, wires, I mean, you name it, right? I cleaned it up, 65 years old, I'm out there picking up the rocks, and this and that. Builder would never do anything about it, and the city would never do anything about it. So the night that they go and they almost hit the gas line out there, Lambertville has no rules whatsoever about builders. You could do anything. You're talking about, oh, well, if we don't do this, then we open ourselves up to a builder doing whatever they want. Anyway, right behind me, the other lots in West Amwell, there has been a 20-foot hole in the ground for weeks. Children could fall in it. Pets could fall in it. Does anybody care? No. So, my understanding is that you're going to take away the ability for people to walk into town when you do this development that only benefits the builder. I don't want to hear about affordable housing. It's a joke. For 10 low-income families to be in the poverty trap of renting for their whole lives, you're going to scrape an entire ecosystem out of there and sacrifice everyone on that hill. We have no curbs, we have no sidewalks, and you're going to send 400 cars a day up there. You don't care. I don't even believe in democracy anymore. You're not representing me, you're representing the builder. There's no arguing about it. Just answer me one question. I know this question has been answered before. Why are they not considering that site, those empty apartments by CBS for affordable housing? Affordable housing. The poverty trap. The boon for builders. Is there an answer to that question?
Well, I've been talking a little bit about this at recent public meetings. There is a developer for that site, and they have contacted the city. The last thing I said publicly was that they were going to be building the same number of units that exist there now, which is 44, and that they were working with the Department of Environmental Protection to go through the regulations on stormwater management. So it's in process, and it's taken a long time. And as I said before, that site has a lot of constraints, obviously. And
I don't know what's obvious about constraints.
well, it's 85% of it's in the flood zone, so the site is going to have to be elevated.
Okay.
So the cost of it becomes exponentially more than other sites that are not in the flood zone. So it triggers all kinds of regulations. So it's just a slow moving process. They've got to get their, they've got to get all their financials. They've got to go through multiple. You're talking a little bit about kind of what processes you have to go through the states. Go through. They'll eventually come to Lambertville, but they need to start with the DNR Canal Commission. They need to work with the DEP on a whole host of stormwater plants. So that is moving along.
And that does give you some affordable housing units.
Well, that would give us 9 out of 44.
Okay.
Correct.
Why
there are HUD homes up on that hill. Why not just put 40 HUD homes on that? I know it's privately owned, but nobody would care if you put 40 HUD homes up there. It's not, and like the last I heard it was, oh, well, we're gonna give them 139 units. That's bad enough. Now back up to 200 units. It's ridiculous. And you're gonna send all those cars up in front. Our houses are like this far from the road. You don't care. You're sacrificing the entire hill. And everybody up there is poor anyway. So you're doing your whole like, I want to control the poor people by putting them in this one little box. We don't care about the rest of those poor people. They're gonna lose all the equity in their houses. And you don't care. Just the poverty trap. That makes more sense, right? There's just no excuse for it. No, and you're gonna be remembered as the Robert Moses of Lambertville. You. People 30 years from now, oh, remember them, they're the ones that ruined Lambertville. You're gonna make like an elevated highway down Union Street because the poor people need to get from one end of the town to the other quicker. Separate neighborhoods. Thanks.
I'd just like to make a comment, Camille. I have publicly stated on multiple occasions my objection to that project. And I want you to know that I did what I could to not have this happen. Okay? We presented a case because we got, you know, we had a motion from the developer. We presented a case. It was weak, could have been stronger.
So I heard.
Recommendations, really weren't.
None of the environmental things were brought up.
I'll just say, you know what was in there and what wasn't, okay? So I just want to assure you that I, for one, did not support this project. Once the environmental issues became clear.
Oh, let me ask one last question. I did hear a rumor that they would have to run water to the whole hill if they were gonna do this project.
I can't
No.
speak to that. I can't speak to that. I don't think.
Well,
we
that
know
figures.
We don't know enough of that.
All right.
20,000.
So we'll be the ones like, they'll be driving by real fast, they'll be
Right.
throwing peanuts at us.
You know, I think
We'll be like
if there's any
making around.
council that supported the project, they should speak up.
Okay.
Thanks.
Who is counsel for Lambertville? Who is
We're
counsel?
looking at it.
No, you mean lawyer counsel.
Lawyer, oh, sorry, you.
Yeah, she did.
You are going to court.
Could you state your name and address for the record, please?
Yeah. Abigail Lee, 54 Hancock Street. So you are counsel for Lambertville, both of you?
I'm the affordable housing attorney.
You are the affordable housing attorney, so who is representing the people of Lambertville and more specifically Tana Hill in their interests? Is anybody here, anybody at all, as an attorney representing Lambertville and especially the people of Connaught Hill in the courtroom right now, or do we have to obtain counsel ourselves?
So you're talking about in the affordable housing niche, right?
In terms of representing our interests in making sure that our land is not raped and pillaged like Cahognanian exactly plans to do. And as you, not you obviously, but the rest of you seem to be in support of. And by the way, you should be ashamed of yourselves for laughing at such a depressing matter because you have so many people here who are at risk of losing their livelihoods. And you are laughing. Everyone's going to lose their house. You are poisoning people. Cahognanian is going to go bankrupt and poison us. I've seen it. The house behind us. That man has abandoned the house and nobody cares. They dug a hole in the ground. It flooded and flooded and flooded. Nobody cares. Not a single one of you care. And you stand up there and you laugh. You are city employees and you are laughing. You are laughing. You are laughing. And I think it's despicable. And I think you should be taken out of office because you are receiving taxpayer money and you are not being transparent. If you receive a single penny from the people of Lambertville, you need to be transparent. Otherwise, step down.
Jeff Tittle, 33 Wilson Street. And I just want to start out and say, for over a year, myself, members of the public, some members of the council had said this was a bad site. This was the wrong the development in the wrong place. It's too big. It's gonna cause too many environmental problems. And then we found out about PFAS. And we found out that the landfill was never lined. And then we find out there's an electronics factory that probably used PFAS, and wells are tested 40 times above the standard. And yet we go forward. People ask for other locations. We never did real due diligence, and I will say that because I watched those committees. We never got experts to back up the problems that were laid out by the public, by council people. And we have experts on the council. We have a planner and a former deputy DEP commissioner. I've spent 40 years dealing with affordable housing issues and 50 years, over 50 years on planning boards. I've never seen such a shameful case in my life where we went out to lose. Mayor, and I'm going to point at people, I'm sorry, I have a First Amendment right.
You're out of order.
I have a First Amendment right to say things. You cannot say I'm out of order, but I have a First Amendment. And I'm gonna go on and say, you supported this project from the beginning, you met with them for 2 years, you directed the planner and the lawyers, and we've lost. So this is on you. When we get flooding, stormwater pollution, traffic, pedestrian safety where someone gets hurt, where we have one problem after another, and then we're gonna have to spend millions of dollars to build a new stormwater system, to put a light on 179, to widen streets up on the hill. We're gonna be paying for it, not the developer. When it comes to cleaning up that site, it's not gonna get cleaned up. Hovnanian has a record. Go to Union, go where I grew up, Hickory Heights. They built on a toxic site. They got caught with it. They got caught in Newark. They got caught in Jersey City. They got caught in many other places. I was involved. They violated the Clean Water Act 540 times for 540 projects. And this is who we're putting our future and trust on. Every time something happens, whether it's going to be flooding, pollution, buildings coming down a hill because they're going to have to build big retaining walls, and that happened up in Oakland when I warned the town about that. It's going to be on this body and the people who pushed it, who supported us all along, who made sure we lost this case. And now we can't appeal because if we appeal, we can't get immunity. So we have been put in a box, and unfortunately, we were put there by our professionals and by our mayor. And this is the future of our town, and it's online. And for the people here who think that this is going to change anything, it's not. It's the same crap that happened here will happen with Finkel's if we're not careful. So we better organize, and we better fight, we better stand up for our town and for our homes and for our neighborhoods.
Thank you.
Hi, Beth Ryan, 2 Hancock Street. For over a year, I've been attending and speaking out at these meetings, raising concerns about the redevelopment of Conner Hill. Tonight, I want to express my deep disappointment in the outcome of the Kay Hovnanian lawsuit and in the leadership that brought us to this point. How did we get here? Unfortunately, our mayor and the city's legal team failed us at every critical step. Residents raised concerns, opportunities for stronger legal arguments were ignored. The city's own planner called the site suitable, approvable, and developable, and no counter evidence was ever submitted to the court. No environmental studies, no expert reports, no mention of PFAS contamination, nothing. Let me repeat that. Despite warnings from residents and city council members about PFAS, steep slopes, flooding, poor stormwater management, a former electronics factory, and an unremediated landfill, none of it was included in the city's legal filings. That silence was not an oversight, it was a decision. The mayor's intentional inaction, silence, and delay are just frustrating. They're negligent. They are a betrayal of the people he was elected to serve. One man should not determine the future of our town. This is not what democracy looks like, and yet here we are. The mayor has helped pave the way for a 200-unit development on contaminated land in the farthest edge of town on small, dangerous roads. He has chosen to check a box on an affordable housing obligation by placing people directly in harm's way, so that the rest of town and tourists never have to see it. I support affordable housing but I will never support sacrificing public health, safety, and the environment to benefit a developer. I was going to ask you to appeal the ruling. I guess that's not happening. But we must demand accountability from our leadership for what they did and for what they chose not to do. Thank you.
Paul Stevens, 39 Quarry. When I first heard about the decision, my immediate response was we should immediately work to get a stay of the decision. And we could base that on the need for the DEP to finish the evaluation of what's going on up there on the hill. All right, this needs to be done quickly because in the end, we don't even get it repealed. My thinking was that we have to know what happens before they start doing work to construct 200 apartments up there. All right, it's only going to make things worse. And so the city, why aren't we? Sean got up here, I got up here months ago and said, why aren't we getting West Amwell involved in this too? We can still get them involved in getting a stay. Their residents are up there at the same risk as ours. I can't believe that they would want to have this decision stayed. Yes, and the basis for conservatives with some completing the state could then be used to go ahead and go for a full appeal of the decision. We never questioned the assertion that 200 units, 137 units was not economically viable to pay off. All right. So that's why we have to now go ahead and make it 200. This just is, I don't understand, and I don't understand now when I come here tonight to find out we're gonna roll over and play dead. That's what it sounds like to me. So somebody please explain to me why we're doing that. Why aren't we trying to fight this at some level? All right. I really want to know. I need to know. Thanks. I'm sorry. Question?
Well, Kelly, maybe you
Here we
could,
go.
help clarify.
Sure, in general, the litigation strategy is certainly something that the council, understands and we discuss, so decisions that were made related to litigation are generally, not commented, but I would say that the judge's order certainly speaks for itself in the sense of he found our, actions to not be consistent with the, requirement for affordable housing. There was evidence in the order, it's very thorough, so the standard, yes, the motion to stay, viable option under any litigation, appeal, viable option in general, motion for reconsideration, yes. Standards for each of those are very high, thresholds are high, take time, the decision was to comply with the order, and seek to get immunity back as soon as possible.
Judy Leeson, 86 North Union Street. I just want to say a couple of things. I'm an attorney, and usually when judges tell you flat out what they looked for, what they needed, what they could have decided on, you realize what you left out in your submission. So when this judge said a couple of times, no change circumstances information, no factual submissions. I'm not privy to everything that goes on as between council members and the mayor, of course. But I'm gonna bet a lot that there were efforts on the part of people on this dais to say, include the things that tell you, Judge, what you need to know about what's going on that hill, the environmental stuff, the PFAS, all the rest of that stuff. I'm pretty comfortable saying, I'm pretty sure council members were concerned that that information was not included. I don't know why it wasn't included. I can't imagine why, but here's what I know the consequences are of that. The public has now learned, after trying to trust being nice, trying to trust being apparently interested, trying to trust somebody who really pays attention to them, that actually, when it gets right down to it, the trust was misplaced. The trust that was put on the senior members of the organization was wrongly put there because the decisions that were made, not to include, not to argue, not to fight for, took that trust, which was carefully honed over all this time, and told people, you can't trust who you thought you could trust, and we will now pay for the fact that the 200 units will be there, and the trust that was placed wrongly, it turns out, will never come back. And as we face the next development idea, nobody knows what's in it for anybody who doesn't hold up their end of the bargain, but we can all assume there's something that's in it, and we don't want it anymore. So I think the time has come that people are now going to be saying, no, 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 no. I don't trust nice words. I want to see what's really going on. And closed meetings all the time will not protect against people finding out what's going on. So the disappointment is beyond disappointment because it's in the face of trust me. It turns out misplaced, no result that says, I will honor your trust. And that's not going to change. And that can't be won back after this happened. Thank you.
Sean Allison, going over here. Just on the point of holding back the evidence and from what it appears to be throwing the police, I think that that's something that is, if not illegal, you can get disbarred for. And I would like to know if evidence was asked to be included that was then not included.
We're not gonna talk about that.
Was there anything left out that was asked to be included?
Attorney-client privilege conversation, we're not gonna talk about.
You're representing Bill.
We are. Please, one person at a time. Sean has the floor.
The city is the client.
Well, finally, you give an answer, Mitchell. Because you haven't been giving any answers this whole time. We've been asking, and you've been asked multiple times, actually. Many things that this is stormwater recharge. Do you have any answer on that yet? The groundwater recharge in a contaminated area? We asked you multiple times, you said you were gonna look it up.
No responded. Yes, city, last time we had this question.
No, you said, I don't know, I'm gonna have to look it up. If there's an answer, I'd
I
like.
think I sent an email a couple months ago.
Yes, the last time you brought this up, Sean.
Yeah, it was non-answer. You said you didn't know.
And then Cindy found an email that specifically answered your question from Mr. Opal. So we're not gonna do this again.
I never saw that email. I never received it. Can you please tell me what was in that email?
Not by memory. That was months ago. So
Okay.
if you want us to find it, we'll find it and send it to you again.
Okay,
It's public
thanks.
record of this conversation. And if we go back into meeting recordings, you'll hear that we've already talked about this at least once. I'm not gonna figure out which meeting it was.
But no one remembers what the answer is.
Sorry.
Can you recharge groundwater in a contaminated area?
I'm not an
You don't know, exactly. He doesn't know either. Sorry.
Please.
And he's getting paid $250 an hour to sit there and be, maybe 300. I saw more.
Let's just continue with your comments.
My other question was gonna be for Wendell Sullivan, but I see that he's conveniently left the building. Because he is one of the three main reasons, from what I can tell, that we lost this case. And he should be fired. Number one, it was what Jeff mentioned about the police station sites and moving across the hill. But there was his testimony that it was that the site was suitable and developable. This was after we knew about the contamination. How does he know if it's developable? Does he know how to remediate that contamination? We didn't know the answers to the groundwater recharge issue. I mean, I still don't know the answer to that, but these are things that, how can he speak with any authority if he does not know how it's going to be remediated? And how much money it will cost? And does that mean that then they come back and they say, oh, well, it's too expensive because we have to remediate all of this contamination, we need to build 600 units. You know, I mean, it's just a farce. It really is. And my last comment is following up on what Karen Atwood said about the people on the Hill taking these challenges into their own hands, removing all the tires, you know, helping to create the park, and helping each other, you know, sort out the titles and the deeds and everything, so things could be built up there, and people could live up there. And I'll just say one other thing that we are helping each other with, because the city is not, I should say, the mayor is not interested in helping
Please
residents.
don't interpret what is in my brain. Don't say the mayor is not interested.
Well, but you,
No,
public record last
You're
2
out-
meetings ago.
You're out of order. So please,
No,
no.
I am not out of order. I am not out of order. You said 2 meetings ago that you were going to make an announcement about helping the residents who were struggling with PFAS, many of which are your own employees, who still can't drink their water, by the way. And you turned the knife a little bit more by basically being the sole person refusing to help residents. If that is not humiliating to you, I don't know what could possibly be. The fact that you are going
more general.
Yes, it's generally unfathomable that a mayor, every other municipality has helped their residents, that a mayor would refuse turning the knife harder, pouring salt in the wound. You should be ashamed of yourself.
I believe that Solonic asked that at the December 2024 meeting, and on December 4th, you sent him a response, which I'll resend to Michelle.
Please. Okay.
Good evening, John Hitchcock, 99 Quarry Street. I wanted to thank that lady for the information about tires. We live at the base of the Little Stone House at the intersection of Rock and Quarry Street, and the kids used to roll the tires down the hill when times where they hit a car, and so the cops had to come up. And so by them cleaning it up took away a problem. On that very hill across behind Public Works, I can recall even as a kid seeing Peter in the wall, and it never fills that wall back there used to spontaneously combust. And even when we moved it in 73 to 41 Quarry Street, fire department would come up and say, oh, don't call fire. And it would spontaneously combust. And so there's some really terrible nasties in that ground up there. And that really needs to be taken care of. But there are ways in which I'm still confused. I've talked about 3.5 acres here for 5 damn years. So the guy wants to be taking a look at when not put a knife to his throat. But his wife came to see Julia Fail and was going to go see Donnie Clark. That's the facts. She wanted to be able to at least find out what a building solution might do to their property, and maybe they could get one. Then I said, that's kind of fair. And I still think they're talkable. Is anybody gonna go over there and talk? It's 3.5 acres. I guess not. When we begin to look at what we used to call the village apartments, which is right across from Cocoa Farms, that does come under the Historic Sites Council as well. So I just kind of clear on that one. And I do think if we take a step back and begin to consider the potential of some different thinking, that we perhaps could put the parking for double layer underneath it and go up a couple stories and be able to have the more expensive views, pay for the less expensive views that are down below, and overcome the drainage situation, because the parking then can be pumped out and down to the stream. There are ways in which you can do things if you want to be a little bit creative, and that might be it. Begin to look at verticality in some areas, not overwhelmingly Trump towers. Trump towers had some point too. But we have to, I think, get a little bit more creative, and of all places, they have affordable housing in Monaco. And the expensive people go in this store, and the last multi-millionaire go in these stores, but it's affordable for those folks. And they've been able to solve it with verticality. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not talking about a tower situation. It's just looking at it differently. And I know that if we go up, we figured it out, Barbara and I, that you could put 2 stories, parking underneath, go up, and then be able to make it something that would make people feel proud to come home and go there. It just is a chance to look at it. Also, the term boy. The Chief Justice, the DAZVI, was a heck of a great guy. And he used the term boy when we begin to look at the determination of the need for redevelopment. And he went on to say the term has evolved. The term retains the essential characteristics of stagnation, negative effects, but there's no showing here. He observed that if we take a look at blight, is that the properties do not develop as quickly as other properties, then all the properties in the state would be blighted. When I bought 41 Porsche, Barbara and I, we had to pay clean up the property at our outside at our expense to get the insurance closed. So here I'm not owning this property, but I'm cleaning it up. And the only reason why we got that deal with New Jersey Manufacturers is one of the officers told New Jersey Bell that, like, I want to talk about my father. He got it cleaned it up. Now it's the Boutique Street. And so it just takes time. And I doubt very much if we take a look at the area up at the Convict Hill, that in time, I see some new houses going up there, some of them are pretty damn nice, that in time it too will develop. And that term that was that got us into this at the first time might go under control. Things don't have a way of going away, but controls every bit as good. So I thank you very much. This has been a tough time for all of us, particularly since the reason why I have problems with my breath and breathing, that I've been poisoned. And so now it's been referred to the FBI, who we refer to as the Federal Bureau of Indigestion, and about as useless as well, I can tell you right now, when you begin to suffocate on your own blood, it's an eye-opener. And we have another issue that right now, as I speak, at 1:45 in the morning, 2:45, we have blasting going on in opposition to the state, which is 8:30 to 4:30, Monday through Friday. They are cleaning off all of the vegetation. They've used very strong chemicals. And I, for the past life, happen to know what arsenic smells like. It's geraniums, of all things. And the smell was so strong that I reported it to the DEP. And I reported a number of things to the DEP. that there's been some very heavy use of herbicide up there to kill things. And if it rains very, very hard and we get flooded, we're gonna have a lot of problems down below where we are. Now we also know that up on Douglas Street, PFAS have got into the aquifers. And then perhaps because of the blasting in the off hours, they unburied 55-gallon drops they can't find may be contributing. And it's time for us to take control. And this is always better to start it than to completely stop. Have a good evening, folks. Thank you.
We're gonna just do one until everybody's had a chance to speak. I don't, Dave, did you have a comment? That's okay. We also have people online, probably. People online. Okay, so we're gonna work through, I also want to make sure that the people online have an opportunity. So let's go to one or two people online. How many people have their hands up?
I don't want to disappoint you, but I gotta leave.
Just one way.
Okay, so talk that person themselves and identify themselves.
Yeah.
He's fired.
Susan, we can't hear you. You unmute yourself again?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear us? Yeah.
Yes, yes. I think I know what's happening. Wait a minute. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, heard you the whole time.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know. It's really hard to hear. I'm so sorry. I also have hearing aids and sometimes it streams into the hearing aid. So I just tried to take it all out of Bluetooth. Sorry. I'm so sorry about that. Okay. What I want to say is that it is, Susan Ravello at 8 Hillside Court. It is so heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking, as people are coming forward and talking about how devastating this development is going to be to their lives, to their health, to their safety, to their well-being, to feel like the forsaken ones. It is just so awful. And I have to say that I came into this with an open mind and without any preconceived notions. And I sat through the meetings and spoke and asked so many questions over time and just really felt consistently pushed off, consistently smoke and mirrors, consistently like things were not clear, but things did not feel right. There was something that was so off, like there were efforts to obfuscate. That's what it felt like. And I understand why people are so enraged and why people are so devastated by this process. It's the process that has really been very questionable. I think it has, the ultimate thing that where we had the opportunity to go before the court, and that it seems like that opportunity was squandered. And that doesn't just seem, that's not a rumor. I mean, we can read the judgment. We can see what the defense was and how poorly it was done. It really looks as though it was done poorly on purpose in order to lose this case. And I really feel so strongly that this has been mishandled and that the mayor has been consistently unempathetic, has consistently come across as uncaring, has consistently seemed to turn his back on trying to help the people. And I have seen the council members object. I have seen the council members try to express varying views. And I have seen the mayor be ultra controlling of the process to the point where the people are frustrated beyond belief. And some of the rage that you're seeing is a direct response to the way that you're handling this, and the way you've been handling even the meetings themselves. But I understand why the folks up on the Hill feel that they've had their backs turned on them, that you've turned their backs on them. And I don't really know what else to say, except that this has made me feel like what's happening here is almost like a little microcosm of some of what's going on out there. And I never felt that way about Lambertville. And I feel very, very sad tonight about this. And that's all that I really want to say. Just that I'm so sorry to the folks here who are dealing with this directly. I think we're all going to be dealing with it because I think it's going to affect the entire town. And I think it's going to be devastating. But I know for you guys, it is just horrible. And I'm so, so sorry. My heart goes out to you.
Thank you.
Ready? I apologize, I stepped out for a minute, so let me know if anybody asked this already. What is the tax credit or tax incentive being offered to Hovnanian?
Will you answer that question?
None right now.
None. They don't build for nothing. Affordable housing is one of the biggest money makers right now.
We have not been approached by K Hovnanian with any quest for or numbers related to the tax incentive.
Nothing yet. Again, I have yet to hear an answer for what is the plan when they go bankrupt. It's very obvious they're going to go bankrupt. So what is the plan when they abandon this project?
Speculate. I don't know.
Well,
We have to be able to go after them. You have to be more aggressive in terms of holding a bond.
Answer the question.
those are good questions, and I would ask our attorney to speculate on what we can do to protect ourselves. You know, in the event of that.
So, if the council approves the ordinance and then the amended redevelopment plan, the step after that would be the city would have to enter into an agreement with K Hovnanian that controls the construction of this project. It'll set forth all the requirements that they have to get governmental approvals, whatever governmental approvals they need, for example, dental planning board, but probably multiple others, local and state. And then one of the other provisions in that agreement would govern what would happen if they were in a situation where they became insolvent or they were foreclosed on. Their mortgage lender would have to take over the property.
If that's the mortgage lender, that's not the city.
The city doesn't own the property, so the city would not have the right to foreclose on them.
But what about the damage being done to the surrounding properties? And what about the road being closed to help K Hovnanian with this disgusting project? Does the city have a minimum bond that needs to be held in order for K Hovnanian to proceed to protect the people on this hill in the most measly of ways?
When they make their planning board application, they'll be required to post performance bonds at that time. And that's based on their construction costs, among other things. And then for 2 years after they get approvals, if they get approvals, they'd be required to post a maintenance bond in order to maintain whatever was approved that they're constructing there. So there are those measures in place that would provide some security to the city on one end, and then ensure that if they had an issue with bankruptcy or whatever other financial issues they had, that someone would essentially step in their shoes and be required to fulfill the obligations of the agreement.
All right, so
have any other builders made bids for this site other than K Hovnanian?
We don't know, because they're paying first it directly from the card. So we weren't privy to any of the conversations that.
And no one in the Borough Council speaks to the owner of this property?
The relationship is not great, it's a little bit acrimonious.
Sounds like that relationship should be improved, so maybe we can encourage him to accept somebody who's more ethical and maybe not going to completely decimate the land.
We can't control what he's selling to. I will say that the property has sitting a number of times over the last 20 years, so there's a reason it's not an arbitrary reason why the relationship hasn't been workable.
And so can the people of this hill vote down something if we don't feel the bond is appropriate?
Well,
The bond, you said there's a two bond. It's for performance bond, you said also maintenance bond, and the maintenance bond, I remember K Hovnanian at a previous meeting had mentioned some very, very low number, and again, 2 years is not a very long time for a maintenance bond. Because things will probably start to collapse in more than 2 years, hopefully, you know, things aren't blown down by the first storm that comes through. So 2 years after, when we're all being poisoned by our wells, and the houses are starting to crack through, what does the city just say, whoops, we didn't think this through?
There because the land use law sets the requirements for what kind of performance bonds and what kind of maintenance bonds and the amounts that they need, and there's the statutory, where it's spelled out in municipal land use law about what those amounts will be.
Alright, fair enough. I just wanna note that this whole affordable housing and a rental thing is exactly what everyone's going towards. They want you to no longer be a homeowner. K Hovnanian and the like are going to they wanna make homeownership a rarity. They're going to be pushing out the poor populations of people like on this hill. And they want you to go out and rent. They're saying, just go find another place, go rent somewhere. That's their solution. They don't care about us. They don't care about us. You have to fight the K Hovnanians. You have to fight the Relateds, the RXR, the Goldman Sachs, the Blackstones. The K Hovnanians are dropping the bucket. You have to fight them because they are going to keep scooping up this land until we stop them. Foreign and national companies like K Hovnanian are just one of many that are going to keep developing our land until we actually stand up and say enough is enough. You have to stop allowing them to buy our land because they shouldn't be allowed to. We can all see from this process, K Hovnanian and the like should not be allowed to buy big tracts of land like this. And again, they're a tiny little piece of fluff in the nut in everything that's going on.
Dave Bird, 55 Brunswick Avenue, and this is a question directly to the attorney for the affordable housing. Could you give us 30 seconds on the stay? All right, can we? What would be the basis of requesting a stay? And what kind of time and money is involved? Again, 30 seconds. Because we don't know anything about it, so
So I can speak in generalities, I can speak to this case, number one, is that the litigation strategy. Number two, I don't represent you, so I can tell you no different than what you might read online, very basic. What a stay means in general is the judge issued an order, and as I said, compliance or the effectiveness of that order begins immediately, so July 8th or the next day in general. A stay asks the judge who made the decision, the underlying initial decision, to let the parties keep status quo, no movement, while another court evaluates that underlying decision.
and that's basically it. All right, good. And we would, nothing that we've done so far would preclude us from applying for a stay.
There's a timeline, the court rules outline when a stay must be filed, just like other motions and litigation.
That was very helpful, thank you.
Sure.
I already told you the land, in case you didn't know. I've lived in Lambertville, West Amwell, all of my 76 years. I probably look like I'm 39, but and I've set up at the front, okay, when I've served on city council. And I've spoken about the importance of, working as a team. All right, sitting out at the audience, and I think others may feel the same way. It's pretty apparent, okay, that there's not a team of 5. All right, that because people have expressed concerns, people have made suggestions. And when we look at this document that was sent to the judge, and we get all that information, okay? And when I saw his judgment, okay, I'll tell you, I was sick to my stomach. All right, because it should not have happened. All right, and the 5 of you have to set up and say, why did it happen? And and now get it stopped, all right, and do something about it. Mayor, and I'll take that back. The mayor quoted, we work as a team. All right, there's something wrong with the team. All right, and something's gotta give, because the community is going to be in big trouble. Thank you.
My Karen Atwood. I just want to respond to somebody that talked about West Amwell. I am a West Amwell resident. My fence to the house next to me is in Lambertville. That's how close I am. And I am in that section that has the highest contamination. I'm like 14% over. 140 over the limit. West Amwell, I have talked to all of them. All the ones that are on the committee, none of them support this. But unfortunately, because it's in a different municipality, they cannot do anything. They cannot tell Lambertville, don't do it this way, try it this way. But understand they do not agree with what you're doing. That is not a place to be putting that many homes. I just wanted to clarify that to somebody.
April Woodall, the 45 Land. We've only been here for 3 years, so I need to ask some questions for my own edification. Our council, not our council, yes, our lawyer for the city, Mr. Opal, are you a resident of Lambertville? No, you're not, and the last name? Granite, no, you're not a resident. And then the gentleman who's a part of the planning over there, Michael Richards, I'm not sure. So, is he a resident of Lambertville? So, I mean, this is just from somebody who's only been here for 3 years, but our 4,100 people are about half of them are lawyers, and it seems like some of them would be really good counsel for our city because they live here. Whatever decisions are made would be very personal. And I think that that's some of the disconnect we're feeling. We're feeling shut out, and that our personal lives are not being taken into consideration with the future of this town that we love so much. So thank you.
Bob Barth, 171 North Union. A lot of people have commented tonight about, all the problems up on the hill and why it shouldn't be done. Is it over? Are we just spinning our wheels here, or are you really seriously considering alternative sites? I know you talked about the village apartments, there's some kind of talk going on with them, but even if that went through, you're still gonna have to build up on the hill, right? That won't anything. So are there other alternative sites being considered, or are you basically giving up and it's what we have to do?
It's not a question of giving up, and I'll let Kelly
I haven't given up, but
expand on this.
are we gonna lose the fight?
Yeah.
We have no.
The high school site was part of our third round mechanism, so Kelly, why don't you take over, because I want to make sure that we've got it just right.
Yes, specifically, the court order is to comply with the development of 200 unit residential townhomes and apartments on the high school site. So I'm not sure that's what the council decided, is that they're going to comply with that. Otherwise, right now, we have exposure to other developers coming in and seeking, other remedies for higher densities and other, parcels in the city. So I'm not.
Well, so it sounds like we have no choice according to the judge, we have to go up there.
Yes, correct. The chaos median, folks sued the city to do that.
So we have to pursue that. So we're not
Yes.
looking at alternative sites.
They're currently the contract purchaser for that site and they have a plan and the judge has said the city needs to work with them to create this development.
So our plan basically would be to try to prove to the judge why they can't do it up there.
We never sent him the data.
And if he agrees, like you can't build up there because of all the groundwater pollution,
Not in our case.
then what do we do? We still have to provide the affordable housing, right?
Person at a time, please.
We still have to go forward with affordable housing, even if the judge tells everybody, you know, all the people down here are right, I'm not going to let you build anything up there. So when we do that, do we still have a plan? I mean, the village apartments, but that won't be enough. What do you do?
I think those are separate, it's conflating separate, I don't wanna say projects, let's just use the word projects. So my understanding is, thank you, my understanding is the high school site, it's a private sale. City has no part in the sale of the property. It's part of an agreement that the city was, had with the court, which gave us something called immunity from this builder's remedy. The developer, Kay Hovnanian, was unhappy with our decision not to continue their project, if you will, for the 200 units, and they sued us. The judge agreed with them. So other sites are kind of, they're just other sites, like you can't swap one out for the other, all right? The 295 North Main Street Village Apartments, that's got its own trajectory, you know, roadmap, if you will. And as any other redevelopment or affordable housing project would have its own path. This order from the judge really just applies to this specific property, and we are in a corner, okay?
It's like a catch-22. If we fight and win up on the hill,
well,
it'd be great for people to live up there, but we're not out of it.
Well, even if we fight, as Kelly mentioned earlier, we have lost our immunity from this builder's remedy, which basically means any developer can come in on any piece of property, any piece of vacant land, buy the property and build whatever they want and call it affordable housing.
You said any piece of property,
Vacant land.
any vacant.
Well, I guess they can't,
Any developable land.
So,
But they can't go to somebody's existing home and say, we're gonna take that. home."
If you wanted to build on a site that already had a building, you could say, oh, hey, I have a great idea.
right.
Or so in a way, I think, you know, I guess what we're trying to say, and I'm
Right, we're
like
trying,
not happy about it, is that
right,
it forced our hand up there,
Right.
so there's no swap up there.
right. And if we dig in our heels and try to fight this order, we expose ourselves to this whole builder's remedy. It's a risk, okay? Because it's basically it's like the Wild West. They have a lot of latitude to do what they want on property that they own, wherever it is in the community, with like no rules. So that is probably something that would be worse than where we are. I'm not saying that where we are is good, but it can get worse.
And if I could just chime in, if we have no protection, then a developer could buy a row of houses, knock them down, and build their share house. a high rise.
Well, you just said they couldn't go after an existing home.
Buy them from owners. Okay, nobody's taking anything from anyone, but you know, I live in a house, right? A developer could come and say, hey, you got a cute little 1.5 story cape, I'm gonna buy it from you. Then apply for builder's remedy and put up a high rise in my neighborhood.
But you can tell them no.
I can't because I sell the property to
Oh,
them.
but you agreed to sell it, yeah.
Yeah, I agree to sell
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
and then they apply to the court says, well, you got no you got no immunity, so you knock yourself out. So that's this.
Okay.
But if you had a stay in the meantime, and you were introducing new evidence that had not been included.
But this is the immunity, and we're at risk as long as we do not have immunity. So it's like, how long do you wanna, be in a room full of people with
Risk
COVID
benefit.
without vaccine kind of thing?
The most important thing too is there's no guarantee for a stay. And it's a very high standard. And the appeal is 14 to 16 months right now, before you have a decision if you don't get the stay. So there's a lot of risk. But I don't want to take Sean's back.
So, you know, I just have a follow-up question to that. So because we've lost our immunity, tomorrow the village apartments developers could sue us and build whatever they want there. And then what happens if they say, well, we're gonna fulfill your whole obligation and we're gonna get it done, you know, before KHAV, then that's the Wild West, they can do that.
Yeah.
And then KHAV is out.
Yeah, that's
Simple.
yeah, but K-Hub doesn't own 295 North Main Street.
No, but the developer could.
Well, but I think Sean's saying that.
Yeah.
Would one cancel out the other? And
Right.
no, it was the judge.
That was specific.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
So
is
that's
like
like-
stuck to the,
You know,
the judge's order.
Right.
Stuck.
can't do that.
Jeff Tittle, 33 Wilson Street. I don't know why you keep going around in circles. The reason we can't appeal is because we lost the case, because we didn't put the evidence in front of the judge, we didn't do the studies, we didn't bring in the experts, and we lost, and we have no grounds to appeal. That's the reason we lost, and that's the reason we can't appeal. So we're caught between a rock and a hard place because of that. The other point that I want to make is that, you know, you're making builder's remedy bigger than it is. Yes, you could get sued, but you also have a guide. The reason that the appeal would be a problem is because Hovnanian could go to court tomorrow and then have their judgment. The chances of somebody else coming in right away isn't gonna necessarily happen, and even if it does, KHOB will be the first one in the door. But the main reason is because we lost the case, because we put in I'm not gonna curse again, pull myself back, because we didn't put in the evidence that we needed to do to have a chance to win. And that's what it came out. We didn't have alternatives, we didn't have our experts, and we lost. And now we're gonna be looking at 200 units on top of the hill with 20-foot high retaining walls. It's gonna be visible from here, probably Bowman's Tower. And we're gonna be looking at stormwater coming down, because you can't control stormwater on that slope. You're gonna clear cut 12 acres, and we're gonna lose the absorption of that water. And my friends who live over on South Main and Ferry, they're gonna see more flooding, as will I. And that's the bottom line. And then we're gonna go broke paying for the infrastructure improvements to try to fix the stormwater problems, try to fix the traffic problems, to try to deal with all the other issues that this is gonna raise, plus all the school kids. That's the bottom line. And then for the woman who mentioned, Hovnanian is not building affordable housing. It's Mitchell, it's Michaels. And Michaels is a subsidiary of Apollo, which is a hedge fund. And so that's the big corporation. And their hedge fund, they're the surviving partner of Drexel Burnham Lambert. Remember those crooks? And Drexel Burnham Lambert, by the way, was the biggest provider of junk bonds for K Hovnanian. So it all comes circle. And we're the ones that are being circled.
Sandy Hanna, 249 South Franklin. If we did a stay, because I just have some simple questions, and we then provided the information that was left out of the original presentation, will that not at least give the judge the ability to see that the land is contaminated? Or can we call the feds in and ask them to evaluate and shut that land down? Is there any possibility of that? Those are my questions.
Yes, I will. I can answer that.
The standard for is that it's based on the record below, so, it's not the time to introduce new evidence, so that's one issue. You can't create something for an appeal, that didn't exist, that wasn't part of the record below. The second question is. NJDP has, they're investigating the property, I don't know.
The judge could involve on it, right? So, I mean, all the papers were submitted to the judge.
Can't hear you.
Sorry, yeah.
I'm done. The New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection is the one looking at it right now, and I'm not aware of whether the EPA, where the site or has been involved, to our knowledge, that's not the case right now, it's a state level matter.
Can we move it forward to the federal level?
It actually is on the Superfund site, on the federal EPA site.
We haven't had we haven't had conversations. But it's remediation is going to have to comply with all of the, whatever remediation takes place, there's going to have to comply with, state regulations, federal regulations if they're applicable, so. All that's going to have to be considered, if this project's gonna go forward and they're gonna be required to. Remediate any portion of it to residential standard.
Is there anybody else online I would like to speak? Okay, is there anybody in the room who hasn't spoken who would like to speak? Right, in that case, I would ask for a motion to close the public comment period, please. Second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Does anybody on the council want to offer any thoughts? So you might stick around for a minute. I think that the council members may wish to speak for a couple of minutes. So we wanted to wait to hear everything that the public had to say and then offer up whatever thoughts we have before we adjourn. Councilwoman Kaminsky, just start.
Where can I go? I just.
Fighting with.
Karen. Thank you. Well, before I get to the matter, there's a lot to say here and but the one thing that I want to start off with just a little gratitude because, I firmly believe that we as a town have got to stop asking our citizens to defend themselves and not get down in the weeds with it. And, Karen and Sean and Beth have taught me that more than ever, because what they have done up on the hill for the PFAS problem, I got into it late. You're the generals. And you really solved the problem that I was totally embarrassed that we weren't in on for, and you have a great community, some, and, but we cannot leave people out there on their phone all the time and then ask them to defend themselves to the developer that comes in, to the guy who's giving them a problem. I'll just have Evan do that, we'll lean over. But we gotta stop doing that, and because why hear everybody's, you're asking us to leave, right? And look, I'm staying with you on DEP and we understand what's going on now, but it's not because them, it's because you. And created it. We need to partner with Westdale Hall. Thank God they sent a letter to the commissioner and we've talked with them, and Karen have talked with them up there. And it's so important now more than ever to be able to do that. But I just can't see us doing that. We can't continue to do that And it's not to do that, and I learned from you, but we cannot do that. We can't send people out, oh, you go meet with so-and-so and come up with a solution. No, we're supposed to defend, be putting our finger in the dike for you guys, I think you know where I've stood on this, like, and I've stood a lot with you. We're at the planning board together. We have done a lot of work on this, and look, I offer my analysis of the issues. I have not, been not happy with with a lot of the suggestions that, we've had, council people, I have had that, I feel have fallen on deaf ears, and I feel, it's not an excuse on my part, it isn't, because look where we are. And we're here, and we kind of got trapped here, and I have to hear from you. I can't say I'm happy about it, but the case needed to be better, and it wasn't. I don't know that we would have been there, but I'll, take ownership of that, but I want to say that I've tried, and I hope that I've been responsive, and I'll be more responsive, because some of the best work and the best times we've had have been hanging out with you. So it's been really good. But what I hear people saying in this is that you really want to see a different kind of leadership, right? And I'm with that, because we need to follow up on this PFAS problem hands-on, right? None of this, you really, it's a day-to-day thing. There's people with individual needs that, it's like whack-a-mole. And without our generals out there, believe me, we weren't doing the job. And, I'm happy to be on the job and assist you in your direction. We have to be able to take a hold of this stormwater system issue that we've had. We talk about it. Okay, we didn't do a stormwater utility, which would have taxed you more. So, but what we need to do, what I have passed, and again, talk about kind of the deaf part of it, is we need to do an RFP. We need a bigger engineer to come in and evaluate the system, determine where the problems are, cost out projects, and then so we can develop a cap, how to deal with it. Because how can we have people coming to this town that want to do things that haven't been done before in a stormwater system that we couldn't get about being inadequate. Well, Jesus, you do, I said to my son, you're gonna complain about your car and the air conditioning, take it to Pet Boys and get some Freon in it, but you gotta take the action. We have to be preventive. We're responsible for our town. We have to be the stewards, we do have to review master plan and change it. We are out of step. And we need to get somebody else who's gonna offer some new suggestions. We can put out an RFP. That's how they tell you how, and they give you some help on how to do it. We have to pass a resolution to go to DOT, which I have asked for, so we can do a pedestrian safety plan on the state highways. Can't do it without passing a resolution. Again, it just hasn't happened. But we need to lead. We need to be more transparent, and we need to not put great. That's its own story. But we need to lead. We need to be good stewards. We need to be much better stewards. And I don't want to drill on it's late, but that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's getting late, and I don't have too much different to offer than what Karen just said, and I agree with those recommendations that you made. I think we need to take action on that so we can make sure the city's in a better spot. But I do want to just briefly speak about the appeal and why unfortunately, the city is in this position. There's simply too much risk for us, not a 1 minute stay of the order. There's the 295 North Main project, there's other available spots, and there's the Oriole Street project. You know, what if that developer says, oh, I want to provide affordable housing here, and I'm gonna build this huge hotel? We don't have immunity, we can't do anything to stop that. So I understand why you're frustrated. I'm frustrated. We're all frustrated. You know, it's a tough decision. It's a decision that I'm not happy with, but unfortunately, I think it's the decision that, you know, when you dealt the hand, and this is the hand in front of you, this is the best decision for the city. So that's why I'm going to go ahead with that.
I agree, I agree with both my fellow council members. I think there are a lot of, hard questions asked tonight. We didn't get many answers, we probably never will. You know, why wasn't the contamination information included in a brief? Why wasn't a list of alternative sites prepared in advance? You know, those are good questions, and I think the public deserves an answer to those things now that the dust has settled. I think I heard a lot of, I want to say disturbing in the sense of not personally offensive, but just out of empathy, disturbing from an empathetic point of view about how disappointed the community is, and rightfully so, how much we've let down the residents of Connet Hill by not including the things that were brought up, you know, not having them be part of our filing. But I think the most disturbing thing I heard tonight was about the loss of trust. And that is something that really, you can't buy it. You can't talk your way into it. You can't sweet talk, smile, and you know, you have to earn it. And once it's lost, it's really, really hard to regain. And I personally will take that feedback and think about that, okay? Because I think whatever I do, we have to think about being stewards of the public. We have to think about being forthright, even if we're telling you things you don't like to hear, but we have to be forthright and transparent about what we do. You know, staying quiet on a topic when the going gets tough doesn't help. It misleads the listener into thinking there's tacit agreement that can't happen. So, as people know, I am not one to be in silent agreement or silent on anything, but anyway, I appreciate everyone coming tonight and giving us your hard-hitting feedback.
I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed that it took council so long to revoke KHOF's temporary designation as temporary or designated development. What it took was many meetings with the public, which gave us input and heard your concerns and brought them to light over the past few months. I apologize for not being more aggressive in ending our relationship with KHOF, and it was due to the input of those who aren't here right now, but the input of those who are in here right now. Thusly, it has put us in a terrible, terrible position as far as fair share and our obligations to fair share and KHOB has some pretty darn good attorneys, and they proved how good they were by winning this. So the question is, do we gamble that the court will do anything? And based on information that you've heard here tonight and information that we have heard as well between us, is that the risk is very high that we won't get a stay and that we will not win an appeal. And during that time period, starting now, we are in really, we have our protection stripped from us from any other developer who wants to come into town. And that's very frightening. We I took into consideration with the problems that this site had, and I'm heartened that the DEP is now looking to see where the PFAS came from, and that the DEP is going to be testing eventually, testing the high school site again. And there will have to be remediation done. Things will have to be done according to the DEP standards. And that will perhaps delay the project. But as far as us going and for going down the path that is bad, but not as bad, and I feel for you, I feel for people of Conoco. I can't imagine what you're going through. And my butt's been in this chair when we cleaned up Connock Hill with the help of Connock Hill and cleared titles on Connock Hill to make it a more viable community and pay some attention to Connock Hill, which hadn't been paid attention to before with vehicles and tires. I know, I lived it with you guys. But we'll control about how they're going to proceed on build this thing. There are still a lot of negotiating that I believe will go on about certain things that weren't resolved. But I just can't feel taking the risk that puts the city in the worst spot it is than it is now. And I hear you, and I take, I share the responsibility for not being more vocal in public. I did become more vocal in public towards the end about my thoughts about this, but I don't want to say anything out of scope where it gets into a legal matter. But I do feel, I feel so badly for letting you down. And it's a relatively new feeling I have after all this is the worst, and this is the worst I have ever experienced being on council. This is the worst decision got made as council members, but the stakes are so high that you all are in my thoughts and my prayers, and will do the best I can with council and the mayor to make sure the impact is not as negative as it seems to be. I'm not justifying anything, but you have a mayor and council that hears you now very loud and clear and has heard you. And going forward, we know the roles that we have to take in your benefit, and I'm standing with you guys going forward to make sure whatever happens on that hill can hopefully not impact as bad as it may or be. So thank you for coming out for all of these meetings, all of these hearings, all the planning boards, the council meetings, and we're in a position where we've got to go through the process again. And I can't say it breaks my heart enough. Very disappointed that it has gotten to this point in a city that course, everyone sitting here loves. And wants the best for. So that's kind of sums me up on that one, Mayor.
Can I make a quick comment?
No.
It seems like we have in this, but in the future, could you involve us in some of these decisions that's gonna be made up there? Can we have a little committee that can meet together with you guys and say, this needs to be addressed, that needs to be addressed? No more behind closed doors, have us get involved with this?
These are legal questions and I'm not gonna answer any more questions tonight.
Well, I can tell you this, we all want as much transparency as possible, and we hear what you're saying, and we will make sure we are as transparent as the law allows us.
Okay.
Yeah.
But, like, I support that, some. Mayor, you have the neighbors.
I don't wanna make a promise now because I don't know what we can do, but I can tell you that we will be as transparent as we possibly can.
Ask the mayor of Marshall to allow you.
We hear you.
Thank you for coming out tonight. I would echo Councilman Stegman's comments about loving the city. I do love the city. Yep. I do love the city. I remember early in 2022 when we were in a closed session meeting, then Councilman Sanders said, "This is hard. This is going to be hard." And it has been hard. And it's going to continue to be hard, and it's been painful for members of the community and members of the council. And I suspect even some of our professionals have experienced some pain through this process. I'm not going to address every last thought tonight about why people may or may not trust me, or why or why not, why I may not speak. I don't always speak, and some of that is because I'm not comfortable speaking all the time. I feel as though I do much better in a one-on-one conversation with people, and I've always encouraged people for those conversations. And I have a responsibility to the city to follow the laws and to do my best to make sure that the city is running well and the council is always informed. The idea that we don't work as a team is, I would take issue with that. We may not always agree, but throughout this process, I would just remind public and the council, until we went through this, there wasn't a single no vote on anything that the council considered, up to and including the introduction of the redevelopment. So, you know, the idea that we're not working as a team, I take issue with. We don't always agree. We have different perspectives. We have different styles. We have different outlooks. The idea that even in terms of litigation, it's not really typically common for a mayor who works under the Faulkner Act to engage the council in matters of litigation, and yet I did again and again and again. I'm not going to get into why some things may or may not have been considered. That's not appropriate for discussion here. But you know, in terms of trust, I don't know what to say about that. I've worked very hard, and I've tried to be a person of integrity. And throughout this process, I followed the law. I've listened to the council members. I've listened to the public. I've done what I can, and that's all I have to say. So I thank everybody for coming tonight, and I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor, please say aye.
I'm gonna make a suggestion. That's a public business.